o'clock today.
Recording in
Which is
progress.
February 23rd, and I'm leading the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, on the borough website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Batista.
Here.
Mrs. Ball Miller.
Here.
Ms. Lambert.
Here.
Ms. Snyder. Here. Mayor Davis.
Here.
Ordinance 2023-10. This is an ordinance that we do every year to allow us to exceed the municipal budget appropriations limits and to establish a cap bank. Did we have any questions from council about this? This is a procedural ordinance.
No.
This is first reading.
Okay, so it's first reading, so it's just us.
Okay.
Any discussion amongst council?
Anybody have any questions?
I do not.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Batista?
Yes.
I don't have a microphone.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
And just so you know, all the mics were fixed, so they're very loud now.
Oh,
So
good.
don't get too close.
Okay.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 57, 2023, acknowledging the hiring of a full-time laborer for the Department of Public Works. 59, acknowledging the hiring of a full-time certified court administrator. 61, authorizing affordability assistance in the form of a homeowner's assistance agreement with the owner of an affordable housing unit located at 510 North Bay Avenue, Unit 305, Beach Haven. 62 is authorizing the execution of an agreement between the County of Ocean and the Borough of Beach Haven for additional traffic signal upgrades. 63, authorizing a shared service agreement between the Borough of Beach Haven and the Township of Long Beach in accordance with NJSA 40A:8A1 for license plate recognition data. 64, authorizing refund of redemption monies for premiums to outside lien holders. 65, authorizing shared service agreement between the Borough of Beach Haven and the Township of Long Beach for the annual maintenance and cloud storage for the police computer-aided dispatch or CAD system. 66, supporting Assembly Bill 3535, Senate Bill number 2449, encouraging the New Jersey legislature to pass legislation to increase funding for the dedicated New Jersey Shore Protection Fund. 67 is authorizing refund of redemption monies and premiums to outside lien holders. And finally, 68, awarding a contract to Shore Connection for the 2023 water main replacement project, Pennsylvania Avenue, Delaware Avenue, and 10th Street.
Is there anybody would like to remove any of these for further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to remove 62-2023, please.
Okay,
Okay.
any others? Do we have
Any others? Okay.
any motion, a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of number 62?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Resolution 62, 2023, authorizing the execution of an agreement between the County of Ocean and the Borough of Beach Haven for additional traffic signals.
Yeah, I have a question because I know last time we discussed this, we talked about Ingleside and Center only if we were going to do this. And now I see that Berkeley is also included. And I was wondering, how does this affect the money? Because we also talked about looking into grants and funding for this. Because we had approved the two at, I know it says third and fifth, but it should be third and sixth, I believe. But we were kicking around the others and I thought we were talking about two. That's why I was confused when I saw that there were three.
You want to speak to that?
So this was my initiative. Colleen, I know that prior to me getting here, you had approved the two. What this is for the benefit of the public, all of our traffic lights in town, except for the two down at Bay Village, are swinging on cables in the center of the street. I would like to see all of our traffic lights on poles, but in addition, each one of those traffic signals will get a pedestrian crossing sign. And what I think we should do is make Beach Haven a kinder, friendlier place. I'm working with the chief. He just handed me these signs. What we want to do is make it safer for pedestrians to cross the street. We're going to ask for motorists to stop in the street when a pedestrian steps off the curb. We're going to ask pedestrians to cross into crosswalks. We're going to try to lower the speed limit in town during the season to 30 miles an hour on season. So all of this is to make our streets safer and to make Beach Haven a friendlier, kinder place. So we're starting with these traffic lights. We have, I believe, half of it's being paid. How
Yes,
much?
half.
So the county is paying for half of it, and we only have to pay for the other half. And the deferral for our payment is over a 3-year period, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
So I think we should take advantage of the fact that we have the county offering to pay for half of it right now. Maybe next year they won't have the money to do that. So that's why I'm trying to advance this now.
Mike, there was some discussion at the last meeting as to whether we do this on Berkeley Avenue. Can you address that? Because apparently we are doing it on
Yes, all of the traffic lights that are swinging on the cables now will all be, I believe there's 6 more. Is that right? 5 of them belong to the town.
we already have some.
There's 6 total.
6 total.
So these are 3 additional.
And the
Yeah.
county does.
Any other comments?
No, I was just curious because I know we had originally talked about the 250,000 and we had excluded Berkeley. And then you had mentioned that there was funding out there. Were we able to get anything? Is there anything that's going to, beside the county paying half, which was always on the table? Was there any additional funding or any?
There's no additional funding at this stage. That doesn't mean that down the road we can't find something. We don't have to make a payment for 3 years on this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And any other comments from council? No? So is there a motion to approve?
I would make a motion, we approve 62-2033.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Batista,
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert,
Yes,
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
I have a bill list today in the amount of $103,848.77.
Any questions about the bills?
No.
Okay, in that case, if this is a very low bill for than usual, is there a motion to approve? the
motion to
bills?
approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert,
Yes,
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Under general discussion, proposed skate park.
All right,
Jamie?
I'd like to just make a couple of comments before we get started, because this could be a very long meeting, and I'm sure most of you are here for that discussion. We won't be voting on anything tonight, but we feel that the public wants to hear as much about this as possible. I'm asking that in public comment, I want to go between the room and Zoom. Last time we did the room, and by the time people got on Zoom, like 90% of the people had already left the meeting. So I think it's fair that we do it that way. I've asked Sherry to keep everybody on Zoom on mute and unmute them when it's their time to speak. And if somebody isn't ready to speak, we'll just move on. That means that you people that are on Zoom have to be listening to the other people. And when you're called on, you've got to be ready to speak. Sherry will unmute you. A couple other ground rules. I'm asking people please to not yell out in the meeting and not to applause and not to boo. More than anything, it's just distracting, and it basically is just going to slow things down. And we could be here for quite a long time because I know there's a lot of people that would like to speak. So that's very important. I'm also asking that those of you that aren't voters or residents, those of you that do not pay taxes in Beach Haven, hold off to speak till the end so we can get the taxpayers to speak first, because it's long and people get tired and they leave. And I think it's most important to hear the taxpayers at the beginning of the meeting. So that's about it. So I just ask for respect. We're here to listen to you. I think we heard you at the last meeting, and you rang out clearly. I've had lots of emails, both on the pro and the con side of both these issues. We're talking now about the skateboard park. And one of the main issues is where it's going to be and that sort of thing. So hopefully we can have a really amiable discussion. And so at this point, I'll start here in the room.
I'm going to present.
Oh, you're going to present. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I apologize.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Just a little introduction to this whole project and how it began was almost over a year ago. We did, as council, receive a petition of over 200 signatures presented by students of the Beach Haven School to build a skate park. And under the former council, Dan Allen and Christina Rutherford, they took on that initiative and they moved forward with that. So I'm the only one left out of those three. So I took over that role and hopefully moving forward. The three things, and I wrote everything down just so I'm very organized and hopefully answer all the questions and present it as best I can. But three main things for the council that are going to hopefully decide on tonight in order for this project to move forward is the location, the design, and the funding. Once these things are established, then the council will have to decide how to manage the park, and that will be supervised or unsupervised, hours of operation, and other requirements required by the JIF, and that's the Joint Insurance Fund that would fall on, the park would fall under that. So I'm going to start with funding first. And originally, the skate park was to be constructed using donations only. But in light of the last meeting, I do not think it's fair for one recreational activity to be paid for and other to require donations only. So I'm proposing that Beach Haven pay for phase 1 of the skate park, and if possible, a phase 2 could be paid for by donations. But of course, we would welcome donations for phase 1. But again, I don't think it's fair for one recreational activity to be paid for and the other to require donations. So that's the first thing that I would like the council to consider and decide upon. Now, the second is the location. So just a little background. Since the original discussion last year, there were 3 possible locations, and those locations were Taylor Avenue, Walsh Field, and behind the old police station. The first location that we considered was the old police station. However, the chief and the Department of Public Works supervisor agreed that this really wasn't the best location. There was cable, utility lines, things below ground that could not really be disturbed. So the second location was Taylor Avenue. We actually had 3 concepts. We had a huge meeting, invited the public to that, talked about the concepts, and unfortunately, it was decided upon that because of the size requirements, specifically in order for a park to be insured, you have to have a 5 to 10 foot buffer between the park and the fence. And there's just not enough room back there at Taylor. There's also a visibility concern. It's blocking the line of the shore to the public, which you really don't want to do that. And also, there's not a lot of visibility for any type of police or anybody pretty much to walk around. It's also very congested in that area during the summertime. So we decided that that also was not a good location. So now here we are with the final location. In past November, the previous council members that were in charge of this initiative consulted with the chief, Department of Public Works, and the borough manager and decided on the new location, which would be Walsh Field. So Walsh Field is approximately 211,000 square feet. It's a relatively large park. The skate park would take up about 2.7% of the park. It would be adjacent to the tennis courts, and it would be facing the boulevard. So it would give an excellent visibility and also a lot of extra space in the park. There are concerns about Walsh Field being difficult to drain. We recognize that as a borough, and in the past 4 years, the Department of Public Works has removed approximately 4,000 square feet of asphalt from the west side of Walsh Field. One of the 3 pumping stations is actually being installed on Pearl Street. The skate park is designed to naturally drain into the ground and return to the water table. And we consulted with the DEP even before we talked about the location at Taylor Ave. So we talked to them about Taylor Ave and the Walsh Field location, and they didn't have any concerns about the location or the size, because 5,000 square feet is not relatively big for the DEP. They're usually concerned with major developments that are over an acre, which would trigger their stormwater management laws. So they were not concerned, especially since it is a recreational activity. Another concern about the location being the Walsh Field is that the Walsh Field is actually used for landings for a helicopter during emergency situations. Concerns were raised about the space necessary for a helicopter to land. Once I found that concern, I immediately spoke with Chief Adam Ellender, our fire chief, and we discussed, he looked up the required space, which is 150 by 150. We had a discussion about the space required, and I shared with him the design, the square footage of the skate park, and he confirmed that there is enough space. He actually confirmed that there's even enough space for 2 helicopters. If we needed a 3rd helicopter, he also shared with me that the school is also a dedicated permitted landing zone in the summer, of course, not during the school year. So there were the concerns about Walsh Field. So you can see that out of the 3 locations, that Walsh Field is the best location for this park. So as far as the design, we went through multiple designs, 3 at Taylor Avenue, 3 at Walsh. It looks like the skateboard park is flush to the ground, but it's not flush to the ground. It's elevated and then properly drained to the field away from the tennis courts. Can you scroll up to the next picture? Please. So you can see here, the blue area, it would be phase 2. The skate park has phase 1, phase 2 is blue. Phase 1 is actually 5,000 square feet, and believe it or not, and I've done a lot of reading, I do not skateboard, so if I crucify any of this language, please, I apologize. But there's actually a skate park typology. I didn't know this. Phase 1 is considered a small skate park up to 5,000 feet. A small neighborhood skate park is between 5,000 to 10,000 feet, and a neighborhood skate park is between 10,000 and 20,000 square feet. So this doesn't even classify as a neighborhood skate park. It's tiny. It's not a destination skate park. Destination skate park is where you held competitions, and they're like 30,000 to 40,000 square feet. So even when I was talking to Brad from Pillar Designs, he's like, this is like a little bit, it's a little 5,000 square foot skate park, but it does fit the size of our community. So that's why that's phase 1. Now, phase 2, I'll talk about in a second, but phase 1, if we start, if you look at the bottom picture right next to the blue part, I'm going to go from the left to the right and just to describe. And again, I might get these words wrong, but the park moves through a transition type mini ramp, which is that U-shaped with 2 hips, and then a back and forth street type area, including technical ledge, a hubba ledge, bank to ledge, stairs, handrail, and launch ramp. Phase 2 is that bowl. Please don't get scared about the bowl. It can't be deeper 4 to 5 feet at the max because it is raised. So it can't be this, I know that people see videos of these huge deep bowls. That can't happen here. It's a shallow, it has to be shallow because of the area that it's being built. I like the idea of phase 2 because it gives a lot of the fathers out there kind of this multi-generational feel where the fathers can go to the bowl and the little kids can skate in around that little U shape there. That's specifically designed for the smaller kids to gain their footing, and then they can scoot down into the street area where they can learn different tricks and whatnot. So as far as what is not pictured on this is the fencing, and according to the JIF, the insurance, there has to be an 8 to 10 foot fence. It has to be a buffer 5 to 10 feet from the park. Each of these little areas are approximately like 15 feet in width, and that again is for the JIF, the insurance. There has to be correct signage as well. I spoke to them today, and it's recommended for a park of this size to be, it doesn't have to be supervised. It but an unsupervised park is what most parks are. Even larger parks are unsupervised, as long as you have the signage. And it would almost be like if you see without helmets or pads, which are required by the JIF, then they would have to leave the park. And that's where the police could, as they're driving by, just like they would tell a kid that doesn't have a helmet with a bicycle that you have to have a helmet. If not, please leave. I've been to many skate parks. I haven't been to one where kids were not with helmets or pads. When I was talking to Mike from the insurance today, he said that, a lot of times when skate parks were initially being insured, that was the big misconception, that they were going to be this big liability. But what he has found is that that's absolutely false, and that they're not a big liability. They pretty much police themselves, and that it's a great opportunity for towns, and that it's not a liability. And he has not seen that as a liability in the JIF. So I talked to him today to confirm that as well.
Jamie, what's the square feet of phase 2?
So phase 2 is 2,500 square feet, and that's mainly because it has to be raised a little bit more than that. So that is phase 2,
And
but
what did you say was the percentage of the park that the state board?
2.7%.
Anything else?
So that is all that I have. I hope I did those special things justice on how to describe them. I know that Brad is supposed to be here, but there's so many people on there. Sadecki.
He's on there.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Does the council have any questions? So what I would like the council to consider, again, is first the funding, supporting the location, and then supporting the design concept. So we can move forward with this, because as our designer said, if you really want someone to build what he has designed, quality takes time. So I want to get this out to bid as soon as possible and get the best company to design this, to build this for our kids.
Jamie, Brad's on and he's unmuted if you needed him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you want to,
Well, I'm just taking
I just,
questions.
I just wanted to make one comment about the
Yeah.
funding. I have no problems with it. I think we bonded this out for like
Did.
325.
325.
We think it's probably going to come in over 325. Initially, we were talking about this being totally voluntarily funded. I think that we as a town should fund this skateboard park, because we funded other athletic areas for pickleball and tennis and many other things. So I think it's our responsibility to fund the majority of this park. But if it goes over 275, is that the right amount?
375.
375. Then I would hope we could get the donations to cover the addition.
The bond
Yeah,
amount would,
I mean, I just wanted to establish that
Yeah,
at the beginning.
hold
I
on.
don't know how the rest of council, we haven't talked about it amongst ourselves, but I do think that as a town, we really do like kids, all of us, and we want the kids to have things to do. And I personally think that kids that skateboard, they have a mission, and they're going to come in here and enjoy doing this, and it's going to be fun watching them. And I think it's great. I think we need to support the athletic endeavors of both the children and the older people in town as well.
Nancy, can you clarify for me? The ordinance amount is 325,
325.
and you're saying any expenses over 325? Would be-
I would hope that we could get some volunteer funding.
Okay.
Initially, everybody said, oh, we can get total funding for this. There's enough people that want it. And I think that if it comes in at 375, we'd need another $25,000 of funding. I would hope that the pickleball or the skateboard community could, raise that money. That's just my thought. And we can discuss it, but I just wanted to put that on the table to let everybody know that I do really think the town owes something to the children to support children's athletics. So now let's move on and,
City Council.
does anybody want to comment on that comment?
No, I agree that if we fund some other projects, it would be prejudicial not to fund all of them. And I know the pickleball thing is still in question, so that's why I wasn't sure exactly where we were going here, because all of a sudden, we went from raising all the money and then, funding the whole entire pickleball project and making the skate park fund their own, and that doesn't seem fair either. So, I think we need to see exactly where we're going in the entire recreation picture also.
I agree.
I have a couple questions. Now, I assume that this phase 2 took into consideration the restrooms and the tennis shack, because it looks very, very close to where they are, and I hope we're not going to be moving things.
No.
Okay.
No, and again, it might have to, again, with the buffer situation, you have to have 5 to 10 feet between the fence. So it might have to be moved over 10 feet to the south.
Okay. Now, do you just want to talk about the 3 things now, or did you want to hear any other concerns?
Well,
No, I want to talk, well,
do you want to clarify? We have somebody online do we need to?
no, he was just here in case we had any questions about.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any specific, if the council has any specific questions about the design, Brad is on who designed.
I don't know if we want to hear.
Well,
public comments.
I have a question just with the design of it all, and is the cost, the number that you have, is that, does that include hiring an experience? I mean, the other email we
Phase
got
2.
about, what the do's and don'ts of building a skateboard park, it suggests that you hire an experienced skateboard construction specialist.
That's who
Brad.
Brad, yeah.
Perfect.
So we
Okay.
hired Brad last year.
That's what I
And
thought.
he's
but I just wanted to
he's been
clarify
on
that.
multiple meetings with Dan and Chris. They had community meetings with the kids and some business owners, and yes, so.
Okay. And this estimate is this current, or is this from?
No, this is current.
Yeah.
This is current.
And so I have other concerns that I'm, obviously obligated to raise, but I think from what I'm hearing from you tonight, you don't want me to raise concerns about,
That was my question.
just safety issues, how it's going to run, how it's going to operate, those types of things on a daily basis, how many are on at one time, or they're BMX or they're scooters. Or,
Okay, so-
lots of
No, I
questions.
can answer that. So, according to the GIF, that this is a skateboard park only. I think it can be skate park and inline skating, which I think is just rollerblades. I'm not 100%.
That's what I thought.
But no, there can't be scooters and there can't be BMX bicycles because of the damage to the concrete that would occur. So that's specifically in the insurance. Also appropriate signage, and they dictate what goes on that sign that the insurance does. And they actually come out and check the design. They check everything to make sure it's compatible with what they will insure. So it's a very streamlined process. And when I spoke to them today, I actually was really relieved because this is very normal to them. So they have, for safety concerns, the fence, the buffer, the signage, a locked gate, hours of operation, everything
Cameras.
clearly. There's
The
not.
chief would like cameras.
Chief would probably like cameras, but we can definitely talk
Yeah.
about that. But there's no lights. It's a locked and yeah.
Right. Time of day, those types of things. I mean,
Mhm.
but we could work this out
Yes.
at a later. I think things like the ordinance has to be written
Yes,
in
an ordinance,
conjunction with, of course, you guys and the chief, you know. to
right,
make
just
sure
like the
that-
ordinance for like the tennis courts and pickleball
Right.
and other recreation has to, and in the GIF, it says, this all has to be written by ordinance. So it will be in the ordinance and it'll be in the code book as well.
One of the things that was brought up was also when it comes to signage, written repercussions if you climb the fence and all that kind of thing, so
Right.
that there is, with the new juvenile laws, you have to have it written or you can't enforce, so.
Right,
it's
yeah,
important.
everything on the sign will be, again, dictated by the insurance company. And there's multiple parks here that I looked at these ordinances and they're pretty much all the same, like Waretown and Tom's River and Barnegat and Berkeley. They have pretty much the same
Yeah.
rules because they're under the same insurance as
Right.
well.
How much is the insurance annually, do we know?
It's
It's
just,
a $5 million umbrella.
yeah. And that includes all recreation, swimming included in that.
Okay,
That's
so
like,
that's all
yes.
lumped into something.
Mhm.
This wouldn't jump our insurance, up,
No.
correct? It's
Perfect, okay.
When is
Um,
this for just phase one at 325?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, can I just ask a couple things before we go on? Because, and it's funny because I had corresponded with Don Miller and I know Dan and Jamie and Chris, we've had this discussion from day one. And as soon as the kids approached us, a year and a half ago, I started talking to some of the other communities just to find out. And basically, I mean, you get a kind of a mixed review depending on which one, because there have been some concerns. Up in Barnegat Light, they found that the older kids were coming, literally said from Mount Holly and Medford, and they had a problem with some alcohol and drugs. So they redesigned theirs for a younger crowd. Now, when I look and we've discussed this, the kids in Beach Haven Elementary, I have no doubt and I have no problem with these local kids. I don't think for a second there's going to be an issue. But the reality is that this will attract from all over, and we have to be realistic and we have to expect that. And the phone calls and the conversations and the emails, and I know many of us have gotten them, is the fact that, Beach Haven does have a problem in the summer with a lot of kids showing up and not respecting our town. So I think, we really need to be cognizant of that. And I think we really need to be aware when we start making rules and regs that, this is taken into account because it has happened elsewhere. Ocean Acres, they're the first to say that they made a mistake by putting theirs way out in Timbuktu. The cameras they had there were vandalized and they never replaced them. There was graffiti. There were kids cutting school and throwing their bikes over the fence so they could use that. So they took theirs out. When I spoke with Waretown and Lacey, they didn't have any problems. So, I mean, it can work, but we have to be aware going in because Beach Haven already has this issue in the summertime. And like I said, I know you're sitting there thinking, we wouldn't do that, and you probably wouldn't. But unfortunately, there is a group that we know because I've gone around almost every Saturday night in the summertime, checking out the Butler Park area where we have a huge problem. And about a year and a half ago, it really overflowed into town. And that was a very bad scenario. So, I mean, that's something I think we really need to be aware of. And I know it's kind of probably the elephant in the room because it's not these kids, but they are out there. And unfortunately, just to say they'll police themselves, these guys will, but I don't expect the whole group to do it because we've already seen they won't. The noise, some of the people who live around Walsh Field contacted me and they said, well, everybody leaves the tennis courts at night. The skateboarders come over and they say, it's loud. And they're talking, they're laughing, and they're using the boards. Well, that's not so bad. But we have to be aware of it. It's going to create that issue. People have asked me about the impervious coverage. And because I'm the one who sits up here at all the meetings and says, we shouldn't overbuild, I think if it's for the kids, I can get around that. But, it is a concern. And I know we're going to hear it because you've gotten the same emails I have. The insurance issue, I don't see as a big problem because we are under the $5 million umbrella that covers, our beaches are our biggest asset and our biggest liability when it comes to insurance. The only concern would be that if we had any kind of profusion, then our rates would go up. And that's the only concern that I would have there. We did have a skate park in town many years ago. And I know they weren't very vigilant about requiring helmets, pads, and all that. And by the end of the summer, the first aid squad refused to go there. They said, we're tired of coming here. So hopefully we will be able to enforce all the safety and the reasonable protocols that don't see our insurance spike. I know we will talk down the road about attendance, cameras, and things like that. But I just wanted to let you know what we're hearing, because I know you're all in favor of it. I get it. Hey, I was skateboarding the mean streets of Beach Haven before most of you in this room were even born. So I really appreciate.
I'd like to see a picture.
I like to see that.
I don't know who had those cameras back then. But seriously, I do understand it. I am a huge proponent of physical fitness and activity. I just hear from both sides, and I think we need to be cognizant. Thanks.
I agree with you, Colleen. I just, I do, just everyone needs to know that our police force is really struggling because it's very difficult to find summer employees. We need 14, we can only find 7, and it is going to be a lot more work for them. So it's a matter of, you have to respect that, you have to believe that, and it's a concern. I have a question about, is this going to affect sports camps at Walsh Field at all?
No, like Walsh Field is
Do we-
like
I mean, do we have-
211,000
So I mean,
square
but they could
feet.
still have sports camps there,
They could have sports camps there. They could have camps at Veterans. They could have
Right.
sport
and
camps
it won't
at-
affect this, because this has been in
Nelson.
emails. Will it affect
Okay.
the farmer's market?
No, the farmer's
I
market runs
know that,
along.
but I just need to ask.
Yeah, the farmer's market runs along the
Yeah.
front of Walsh Field, adjacent to the boulevard, so it wouldn't even be near
I'd
there.
like to see that back in
Right.
Veterans.
I thought the
Anyway,
main concern would be the helicopters, and
Of course.
that's
well,
not
you already
even,
addressed that,
yeah, but it's not gonna.
How are you going to, and maybe Brad can answer this, or you kids can answer it. How do you, last meeting we had second graders who want to skate, and then we had grown men. How do you, of course, that's what happens in a skate park, and I know that, but how do you manage that from a safety perspective?
From a safety perspective, the parks that I've been at, it kind of flows with the more experienced skaters working towards the more kind of technical areas, which would be the street areas. And then the younger kids working out like the little half ramp and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I don't know how that,
It just works itself out.
it does
probably,
work
yeah.
itself out.
And I'm sure, the big guys.
Yeah,
look
I
out for
did.
the little
I know.
guys and-
The larger
Just
the,
like surfing.
the larger the park, I mean, yeah, sometimes you're surfing, you've got 50 guys out trying to get
Right.
one wave. The larger the park, the less problems that occurs. That's why in the concept G&H, the park is 6,000 square feet versus 5,000 square feet. If you wanted to consider a larger park, that's always an option too. But it does work itself out. And like I said, the GIF did not have really anything as far as large problems that were in the past from these parks.
I feel compelled to say that as a reminder for all of you who are really adamant about green space, this is taking up green space. It is.
It is.
It is definitely impervious. So
It is.
It is, and whether it drains to the south or not. So that's just something to keep in mind. So when you're considering, just in the future, this is something that
Right.
if we're
And when-
willing to, it's
I
just something
understand,
that has
and
to be
when
admitted
you're
and put out there.
Right. And when you're considering green space, one of the problems with taking away green space is increasing the flooding, increasing the pollution, because the water is running off and then taking with the pollution and then going into the local waterway. So here, when you're taking away that green space, you're not creating additional pollution and you're not creating additional flooding. So that's the two main concerns that we've solved with a correctly engineered project, and also allowing the water to drain into the natural ground and percolate down versus going into the sewer and then out to the bay. And everything running off the skate park's not running off any type of pollution from the local streets and that. So it's not really considered like a polluted type of water, like runoff.
Just another quick question. When we say that Welsh Field is 211,000 square feet, is that including the tennis courts?
It's including the tennis courts.
Okay.
So the tennis courts are approximately 30,000 square feet. So if you take the tennis courts away, you're talking like 190,000
Okay.
square feet. But we took that in consideration when we were looking at the perimeter for the both helicopters to land and stuff like that.
And the other, it just leads into the other question, how much does it encroach on the baseball field?
On the baseball field.
Yeah,
I don't know I don't know that exact answer, because when you think of a baseball field,
We
like,
have
what do you
softball
mean?
and hardball.
Yeah, you can still play, I'm sure you can still play baseball. I haven't seen
I
any
don't
type
think
of
so.
organized baseball or softball there. Are you worried about people hitting home runs into the park?
No.
Right
I
field,
just-
it's gone.
No, you know, it's been traditionally a baseball field for
Mhm.
years, and there might be some deed restrictions on that. But,
Yeah, there's no
I was
deed
just-
restriction as far as,
just,
yeah, it's
I
a
found out today that
recreational.
Mr. Walsh actually ran for office, and that's how he ended up at the field, and he did not own it first, and have it, that's what Jeanette told me.
Oh, good. Well, she would know. Right. I mean, it's been there all my life.
Jamie, can we get a site plan?
So it's not really like encroaching. There's still a large outfield. I mean, you'd have to be a slugger to get in the park. What do you mean, a site, like
A site plan would show us where the park is in relationship to the fields. It would have the fences. You're saying that the fences have to have a buffer and so it's very hard to see the way you have it laid out there. I think a site plan would help us see the project as it exists from a bird's eye view. It's
Right.
typical in any development to have a site plan.
Right, well, we need to, if we're gonna move forward with that, then that would be the next step, and that's where Frank would come in and he would move forward with that, so I can have that done as well, but I really am looking for a consensus on the location, the design, and the funding from the council, so we can move forward.
If
I
we're
would
gonna
also
move
like to
forward-
see it like staked out.
If we're gonna move forward on this particular location, I think we need to see a site plan
Why?
for all those reasons.
Because you can't,
You can't see the encroachments on anything on this perspective
so
view.
you want the whole view of Walsh Field and
Site
how,
plan, yeah.
it's encroached on
Well,
the,
where the park's gonna be with the fences and everything else, I think. And
Jamie.
I think you should consider bike racks. You can, a way to get into this park. Are you gonna be on the east end, on the west end? Are you coming in from the south side, the north side? All those questions, I think, are important. Benches,
yeah,
where you're
that,
gonna have people waiting and so forth. I think all that should be on your site plan so that it's all there. And not added later or ad hoc.
it's not ad hoc,
Well, if
benches
it's not
and,
on plan,
well, why would we have to have benches right away and stuff like
well,
that?
where are all the people gonna sit that are waiting? Or they're just gonna congregate somewhere? I think crowd control and all that's gonna be important.
Jamie, I think that, and maybe Brad could clarify, I think that part of his proposal, part of his responsibility is to provide us with the next set of documents. And it may include a site plan. I know some bid documents, things that we can tangibly take and go to bid. So I think Brad could provide you what you need under his current responsibilities.
Okay, yeah, because Frank did say that they were there already, yeah, the
Included.
package was all ready to go to bid. So what would be the concern, that it's encroaching on the baseball field, just so we're clear?
All those concerns that I just meant. One is see how it looks on the field, see how much encroachment actually it is taking up on baseball. I think people are gonna have a concern about that. And also it would show you your topography for your drainage and so forth. You say the drainage is gonna go right back into the ground, but what you don't want is, we all know that it's a low field. You don't want puddling and things like that and make it a nuisance. You want to know where your crowd control is going to be and all that.
Right, well, it doesn't puddle where the tennis courts are.
You're going to have a lot of runoff on this thing.
It's only 5,000 square feet, and those 4 tennis courts are 8,000 square feet.
It's 5,000 square feet is going to have runoff, Jamie.
Well, I understand that,
And
but
then you're going to have a drainage plan as part of the plan.
that is part of, this is not just like a schematic. This is, like Sherry said, a whole package where that's all involved.
I'm
the
just saying,
drainage
yeah, I'm
plan.
saying that you should have a drainage plan.
There is a drainage
Okay.
plan. Okay.
Anybody else want to say anything before we open the floor?
Do
I
we-
have one other question. Is there a fee? Is it going to be like a beach badge kind of a thing?
That could be decided at a later date, but that's ultimately will be in the ordinance and decided by council.
You know, one
But
thing
we
I
really need a consensus, like, are we gonna Like, are we gonna move forward with this? Because if we are, then we need to go out to bid. That's what I'm looking for.
One thing, relating to the drainage. I know years ago, and I don't want to mention any names, but there was a lot of dredge material that was put on that field. It has really affected the field.
Where is it?
It just was put on there. We didn't have Parker Island to put it on, and I think it was, I know this because I think it was dredging the Yacht Club Harbor, and a lot of it got carted away. It really sort of screwed up the drainage on that field. And I remember people talking about it, was a while ago, but I think that's one of the reasons why that field doesn't drain very well, and it doesn't. And over the years, we have talked about regrading the field, but there is this layer because a lot of the material I think that was put on there sort of turned clayish and hard. And I think I just remember this is just drawing on memories of maybe back when my father was Commodore of the Yacht Club or something. But I remember hearing that. So that might be something to think about. I do think Mike's right in that when you see a site plan, you have more specific information than that. I don't think that should be very hard to get. We're not voting on this tonight. We can hear what the public says and get the site plan done pretty fast and look at it before we vote and move ahead. But
Nance, use the mic a little bit more for the back of the room, please.
pardon?
Just
Oh,
use
I'm
the mic
sorry.
for a little
I
bit.
guess you told me that.
I just don't know if they.
Sorry.
Well, not that much.
So anyway,
Mayor, we could have a resolution for next meeting or
Yes.
whatever the council wants.
we could
to
have a
commit to
resolution
it.
for next meeting, but it would be nice to be able to see a site plan. I don't
Can you ask-
think that's a big deal. I don't know, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Can you ask Brad? Brad, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So the concern of a couple members of council is providing a site plan so they can ultimately see the size of the park in relation to the rest of the park, to see how it encroaches on the baseball field, just to get a better visual of the entire field with the park.
The only
Also,
thing
Brad,
that I can provide at this point is the layout on an aerial photo. I do not have any kind of AutoCAD or any kind of survey for the site itself.
Frank would have.
Yeah.
Frank would
That's
have.
what you said, Frank. Can do that.
Okay.
But I can work with you guys on that and get the
Yeah.
proper stuff and get you a site plan. That is not a problem.
So you can have where the entrance is going to be and all that.
Okay.
Right, that's what Frank would be working on, not
Not Brad.
Brad,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Because
okay. So
not every park has to have a fence. That's specifically for our
Okay.
JIF,
Well,
our
maybe you can get
insurance.
Frank to do that.
Yes, I can get the borough engineer to take Brad's concept and put them on a site plan for council to see. And then with the fence as well and the buffers.
that'd be
Yeah, I
good.
would like to see that. Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, shall we open the floor to public comment? Do you have anything to say?
I was just going to say, on the agenda, there's two other items for general council discussion before we get to public comment.
Oh, okay.
Can I just add one more thing? And that is that, if this all is approved and, I think once we work things out, it looks like it's going to go through. I think we should also think about improving the basketball courts that we've talked about this in the past. I mean, there's a lot of things in this town, not just a skateboard park that this town could use and needs for the kids. And for adults, because parks aren't just for kids, sorry, but they're not. And parks and recreation, it's just the way it is. So I think to think about if we're going to be open-minded about this and we're, willing to spend the money on it, we have to look at the big picture and say, let's plan and think about having, improving the basketball courts, we don't have enough courts for kids. Sometimes the school's open, sometimes it's not. So we can't really count on it. And I'm not even going to say the other word, but let's just think about the open-mindedness of it, doing it all. So.
Kitty, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did suggest a couple of meetings back that we renovate and restore the basketball
Right.
court on
I
Walsh
think it's in
Field.
the master plan.
And I'd like to bring that forward to council shortly.
Me too.
Okay, so I agree, we need to look at that. But I guess we have two more items on the agenda to discuss. And what I haven't, I didn't get a most updated one, so I'm
Tents.
sorry. Updating, okay, that we have an ordinance talking about updating that. We have an ordinance that says no tents on the beach, which we haven't enforced for a long time. And yeah, and so basically, we want to discuss that. We feel, I think most of us feel, we haven't had a discussion. We just said, let's look at this. But I think most of us feel that when people put tents on the beach, our beaches are smaller. I mean, they're back to what they were before we had beach replenishment, maybe even less. And when people put tents on the beach, it really makes it difficult for other people. And then in addition to that, which really annoys me, is some people are hiring people to come and set up a sitting spot for them on the beach with tents and chairs and all this stuff like it, 7:00 in the morning before the lifeguards get there. And then they can go down and just take this space, and it's not fair to everybody else. And then when you have all these people with these tents right by the ocean, and then the people are sitting back in the hot sand and they can't even hardly get to the ocean. And so we would like to stop that. And I know I've felt this way for a number of years, and it's just been very difficult because then you have people want these little tents for their babies. Well, they don't take up much space, but I mean, and then I think it was Ship Bottom came out with an ordinance saying that you had to have, you couldn't put tents on the beach. It had to be an umbrella type thing. And then there are issues with umbrellas because they can fly away and that sort of thing. But it leaves it open so people can, if you're sitting on the back of the beach, you can still see the ocean. Anymore, the beach gets so crowded. If you're sitting in the back, you can't even see the ocean. So we have a draft ordinance that we want to discuss regarding the tent ordinance and how we're going to enforce it. So I'll open this to the rest of council first. And at the end of these, we have another discussion after that. Then we'll open the floor to public comment. Okay?
I'll speak. I don't think this was at the back of the room, so I think it's fair to let the public know what it says.
Okay, go
Right?
ahead.
Don't you think?
Yep.
So no person shall erect, maintain, or occupy on, or I'll just paraphrase. Basically, the tent, there are no tents, only an umbrella with a single pole, or something with a single pole. You can call it something other than an umbrella, I guess you could. 7 feet in diameter. No grounding lines, ropes, or sides. Baby tents, of course, will be excluded from that, but there's a size restriction. With a special events permit, pop-up tents with no sides and only a roof, not to exceed 10 feet by 10 feet and 8 feet high will be permitted. That's with the special events permit, and those tents are only permitted during the period of 1 hour after sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. Mary Claire, correct me if I'm wrong about, because I'm paraphrasing here. Umbrellas and baby tents, anchoring lines, tethers, or the like shall not exceed beyond the perimeter of the umbrella or baby tent. No person shall locate an umbrella or a baby tent in an area obscuring a lifeguard's view of the ocean or in an area impeding a lifeguard's egress from a lifeguard stand as determined by the lifeguard. Pretty much sums it up, right?
Yeah, and I think the issue arose partially because there are some products that are a hybrid of a tent and umbrella.
Mhm.
They don't really fit a definition, and one of those companies actually contacted the borough. So we can write an ordinance, that says pretty much anything, but we want to know what the sentiment of council is and how they want to proceed. So I think really the first step in solving any problem is identifying what the precise problem is. So maybe that's where we start the discussion, but I leave it to council.
Well, I think the problem is just what Nancy said. I mean, I was saying to someone earlier this week, if we were in Ship Bottom, it'd be different. Their beaches are huge and our beaches are very, very small. We can't, one block of homeowners can barely fit on a beach, at least on my street. So, and I know many others. So I think it's really important at this time, based upon our beach situation, that we should enforce this. I like it.
I agree with Nancy and Kitty. Basically, one of my pet peeves is that people come in groups and families and set up like 3 right across. And I think really the problem here is going to be enforcement, because nobody's going to be running around with their tape measure is it a 7-foot umbrella? Is that, I mean, I agree, we have to do something. Mary Claire and I have been over this how many times? And, I have seen people like those new cabana type things. And I get it in a way because they're not that much bigger. And then you have the main pole in the center. Then you have the forward that you can put sand in. So it's actually a little safer than an umbrella because you're weighting it down in addition to the center pole. Right now, that's not part of the package. So, I don't know. And when it's public comment, please weigh in because this is going to be a hot potato, I think. I agree we need to do something, though.
I do think the ordinance should include something about professional people setting up sites for people early in the morning. I find that we charge, if you want to have a surf school on the beach or a yoga class on the beach, somebody has to get a mercantile license and they have to pay for it and then they can do it. But yet these people are coming down and people are paying them to set up a beach place for them that takes up a lot of space. And if we want to allow that, then they should be paying a mercantile license to Beach Haven for that business. A number of years ago, there was a company that they operated in Florida, and they came to us and they wanted to have a business like that on the beach. And they literally, legitimately came and said, we'd like to do this and set up these places for people. We do it in Florida and it's great. And we said no, purely because we felt that it really isn't fair to all the other people that come to the beach to have somebody taking up a huge amount of space with their chairs and umbrellas and tents and all that stuff. And but now it's happening, and people are being paid to do this. I guess under cover, we just shouldn't allow that. And again, a lot of it is enforcement. How do we enforce this stuff? But I just find it it just isn't fair. We all need to share the beach and. So anyway, is there anybody else in council that wants to speak to this, and then we can talk? Mike?
Number 4, Mary Claire, you have it highlighted. Such tents as are permitted by this section shall be permitted during the period. I think you should just get rid of that.
Yeah, that was from our previous ordinance.
Yeah, that's just,
It's up here in part, I just mushed it down.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see the
If you
necessity.
guys wanted
If
it.
you
Yeah,
can
that
do
should
this
go.
for a special
It
event.
also addresses the time, and you guys were maybe worried about the time.
If you have a special event permit, it's going to be on there anyway.
yeah, I would take that out.
Take
You're
that
just
out.
asking for more.
Does this mean, though, if we have that in there, that somebody's going to get married on the beach and they want to put a little thing up? I mean, usually they got married after the lifeguards leave or before.
That's fine.
But do they in the past, we've never charged people to be married on the beach.
No.
Okay. That's just a question.
And those tents are up for an hour. 15
Right,
minutes.
right, exactly. Okay, nobody else on council wants to say anything, so we'll move on to the
I guess
next.
enforcement, I guess we should say how it will be enforced. And I believe that, well, let me ask Sherry that question. Could you address?
What's that?
How will this be enforced?
Well, beach patrol will be the first line of enforcement. I'm sure that possibly beach badge supervisors will keep their eyes out. And if we have an issue where we have complete non-compliance, we have police department to back them up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're finished with that, so we'll move on to the budget. Sherry?
A great way.
Thank you. In light of the crowd here, this is usually a very lengthy discussion. I will do my best to move this along as fast as possible. However, there are some new council members here, so I also don't want to rush.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you are 2 worksheets. The budget is made up of salary and wage line items and other expense line items. There are 2 worksheets. These are draft work in progress worksheets where we have our preliminary discussions. We kind of put everything into the mix here. We take requests that we've had from department heads and we throw everything in here. And then at the end, once we go through the worksheets, we will then analyze what that means, where we are in totality, how we balance the budget, talk about surplus, talk about the tax rate.
and so forth. So I will start with the first worksheet that you have in front of you, which is the salary and wage. The majority of the items on here are contractual items for employees, individual contracts, negotiated labor union contracts. So there's a lot of the items on here are not up for discussion or debatable. I have highlighted some of the items that maybe are a topic of discussion or are maybe an item of question. So scrolling through, what you will see on these sheets are the figures from the 2022 budget and then the 2023 budget. And then over in the far column is the percentage increase over the prior year. So moving along on salary and wage, I will just scroll through page 1. Again, these are mostly contractual items. There's one item that is new highlighted under the borough clerk category for state exam license that is for employees in the clerk's office. Sherry, if you want to maybe elaborate on that.
Yeah, who are in the process of completing the classes and then sitting for the state exam.
Is that what the exam costs to take?
No, that is what they would be, that's an incentive for sitting
Oh,
and
that's an
passing.
incentive for
Salary and wage.
So,
All right.
Page 1, I will just kind of scroll through here, so please stop me if I'm going too fast. Page 2, there is the same incentive under tax collection. There is an employee in the tax office that is also recently set for a state exam. Moving on, tax assessment. Sorry, again, this is a worksheet. You can ignore some of the yellow highlights on the names. That was probably from the prior year highlighted for a new position. Down at the bottom, under construction, we have an item that we put in there every year for overtime in the construction office that was added a few years ago. They don't really incur overtime, but there was a possibility that they might have extra hours due to the increase in building permits. So I have that in there. Again, that's an item. If somebody wanted to remove that, we could discuss that. Moving on to page 3. License inspector, police department. The police has many different line items. We have a new hire. We filled a vacancy this year. We have an item highlighted for promotion. That is, we recently retired a sergeant. We have a few police officers patrolmen that have sat for the exam, so they could potentially be promoted to a sergeant position. So we have a placeholder there in the event that we promote patrolman to sergeant. SLEO is the summer officers. Page 4. We have emergency management. We start with public works. We have the streets and road department. I have the item highlighted, the 20,000. I just wanted to make note that was the reserve for storm recovery. We started that. That is a trust that we started 4 years ago, and we're just building up funds in the event that we are hit with a storm. We don't have to have a hit to the budget and the operating expense. We can use this storm money, and that saved us quite a bit when COVID came. It didn't affect our budget at all. We were able to pull from the reserve.
What's the total on that reserve?
It's about 80,000. Sanitation at the bottom of page 4. Page 5, the top of sanitation, we have a new position for a public works secretary. Recycling, buildings and grounds, maintenance of equipment. The overtime line item is highlighted because there was a new employee for a mechanic that is eligible for overtime. So we throw that in there as a potential for overtime. Parks and Playground at the end of page 5. Moving on to page 6, we have the Beach Patrol. And the Beach Patrol, we do an analysis every year. We lump them, since there are so many of them, we don't individualize them. They are hourly employees. If you would like to, we did an analysis.
Yeah, we compared we met with the chief and we compared the rates, the pay rates to the other beach patrols on the island. And we are recommending that we increase the hourly rates for the rank and file beach patrol to meet with the pay scales for the rest of the island. So that is what you see there in front of you. It's the increase.
A question like our chief, Megan. There's no increase in her pay. Is she getting this in addition to lifeguard pay, or that's her
No.
total salary?
No, I sat and negotiated with the chief for the officers are not seeing an increase. We felt it more important that the rank and file patrol members see the increase. So her top officers and herself they're not taking an increase this year. They're in a good position.
They're okay with that. Okay.
Moving down page 6, the library, we have, I guess, some fluctuation there.
Yeah, right now,
Unknown.
the library director is a part-time position. We are having some difficulty finding a suitable replacement to the one that we had. So there's been some talk about changing the position from a part-time position to a full-time position, and succession planning, as some of our employees that are full-time now retire, to replace them with part-time, to kind of change the hierarchy a little bit, make the library director a full-time position and the employees under her part-time. So that'll take a little time to go in effect, but we would like to see a little increase in that line item. So if we can get a suitable candidate, if an opportunity arises to go for a full-time director, that we could pay that.
And then lastly, on the last page, page 7, at the bottom of page 6, we have the court. We are in transition also with our court administrator. We have a new administrator starting soon. And then that is at the end of the current account, showing a 2.76% increase in salary and wage overall. The water utility, you see those employees listed there. We also are able to utilize the water utility. We pull a portion of some of the members from the current account, the administration, and charge a portion of their salary to the water utility. So are there any questions on salary and wage? Or can I move on to the next worksheet? Okay, the next one is the other expense budget worksheet. We are very, let's say, consistent in our O&E. Over the years, we really don't, for the most part, change O&E. So there's not a whole lot of fluctuation here. We try very hard to have the department heads maintain their budget over the prior year. And so for the most part, there is not a whole lot of change, except certainly there's items that come up that we do put in here, and I have those items highlighted. But for the most part, page 1, there is no change over the prior year. Page 2, also, if you, again, I don't want to go too fast, but there is no change from the prior year also on page 2. I will
We
kind
haven't
of,
had any overruns on any of these. I mean, we've never gone above these amounts.
at the end of every year, starting on November 1st, we're able to do budget transfers. So that's,
And so that's how you balance.
we do some budget transfers. We try not to, we try to minimize them, but at the end of the year, starting November 1st, we're not allowed to transfer prior to November 1st,
Okay.
but starting November 1st for the last 2 months of the year, if there is a shortfall, we will make a resolution to transfer into one line item, but we pull it from another line item.
Okay, so you're keeping track of this, like if consistently, say there's an increase in advertising, you might want to raise that budget.
Correct. We
but there
raised-
hasn't been. It's just
Correct.
been-
If we analyze it, I have all the worksheets here from the prior year. We analyze where we are. We try to keep it consistent. There are items that have gone up. We have seen some increase in cost. Some of the items on here are beyond our control, as you'll see when we get to certain pages.
Right.
But for the most part, these are the individual department line items that is really where we try to keep consistent from year to year.
Okay, good.
Page 3, let's see. The tax assessor, we added a few years ago, line item for appraisals, and I put it on there again and highlighted it just to question again if we wanted to keep it. In 2022, I think we spent about 7,000 or 8,000 in appraisals. So if it's something we're continuing to do, we would leave it in there.
I would.
I think
Okay.
we should keep it.
Are we getting reevaluated this year?
We
Okay.
don't have to spend it, but if.
Mhm.
We were just talking about this. We know that it's coming,
Mhm.
but the order might not come in time to force our hand this year.
Okay,
We're thinking that the action is actually going to hit us next year.
That's for the revow.
Correct.
Right. There was a letter by the state that it was ordered for 2023, but I think timing wise of it all, it might actually not happen until 2024.
great.
In legal, I increased the legal line item. Again, this was going back to last year. We had to transfer money into legal. So there was a $25,000 increase in legal. I offset that with a reduction in the special litigation line item. I reduced that one by 25,000. I think that the special litigation was increased a few years back with Millay and Associates. So that has lightened up a bit. So I offset that increase with the special litigation with a reduction there. In engineering, actually, I forgot to highlight this, but engineering, we had to transfer money into that also last year. So I increased that line item by 35,000. And then also it was mentioned that maybe after the pump station, did you want to talk about that? We would do
Yes.
another flood study?
Yeah, we did a nuisance flood study leading up to the installation of the stormwater pump stations. And of course, we want to see the efforts, the changes that we've made. So we want to go ahead and do a post installation, a nuisance flood study with Stockton. So I'd like to do that after the installation is complete so we can see how much improvement we've made.
Okay, moving on, page 4, there is no change, land use, zoning, construction. Page 5, the interlocal construction, license inspector, insurance in the middle, top middle of page 5. This is our JIF bill that we were talking of earlier, our liability and our workers' comp. So these are non-negotiable items. Our liability increased, our workers' comp increased. Health insurance had a very large increase this year, the state health benefit plan. So those equated to about a 16% increase overall in our insurance.
Question, is this increase, it's not due to an increasing number of employees, it's just an increase due to inflation and,
Nancy, or Mayor, that's been seen across the state.
Mhm.
okay,
Uh,
all right, thank you.
At
That-
least,
no,
a-
the- yeah, the
at
health
least
insurance
a
is-
teen or in the
Correct.
20s% increase in state health benefits. plan.
Okay, so
Mhm.
we're under the average, is that what you're saying?
I can't say what the average is, but everyone's experiencing.
Okay.
Yeah, the health benefits
Very large
had
increases.
a few years back, we actually had a large reduction in the health benefits, and now we have another large increase.
Yeah. I think the point is it's not a borough issue. It's a,
Mhm.
it's a
No,
state
it's
health
not.
benefits
It's not a
program
number
issue.
of employees, no.
Thank you.
Moving on, page 6, police, no change.
Can I stop you there?
Mhm.
I did speak to the chief and he did ask that we insert into the bottom of the police budget under supplies. They are in need of med supplies. specifically some replacement of AEDs. So he's asking for 5,000 there for medical supplies, AEDs.
Where is that line?
I believe it's page 6.
Page 6.
You'll see supplies is a blank line.
I'm just curious on page 5, why do you have the computer software highlighted
That was highlighted last year. That was an increase last year.
last year?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're on 6.
Okay, so page 6, Long Beach Township, that is our contract for dispatch services. Emergency management, no change. And then the next line item is our annual contribution to the fire company. We've been, Sherry, if you want to speak to that as well, we had a few meetings with the chief. I believe he might have just
Yeah,
stepped out for a call, but.
Yep, myself and Councilwoman Baumiller and Councilwoman Snyder, we met with the chief and the president from the fire company. They're asking for an increase of for our annual contribution to the fire company to increase from 38,000 to 50,000 this year.
Okay.
Do we ever get an audit from the fire company? Just out of curiosity.
I think we did.
We might have it.
Okay.
Next, we have our annual contribution to the first aid department. Fire, no change from the prior year. Page 7, municipal prosecutor. This is the start then of Public Works. The Streets and Road Department had a reduction. That was just because last year we had an increase for the electric vehicle charging stations. We had to match the grant. So we had an increase last year. So I removed that this year.
Great.
Sanitation, there was a request from the superintendent for a roll-off disposal for 18,000. So I put that in there, which is why that item is highlighted.
Yes, and just so you know, we briefly discussed it a couple meetings ago when we did a resolution to apply for the LEAP grant. That is a grant that's provided to municipalities to encourage us to share services. The collection of our roll-off containers, the dumping of our roll-off containers used to be a service that Long Beach Township provided to us for free. They recently just relinquished that. They don't do that anymore. We're not the only municipality who's now stuck with, almost a $20,000 annual bill to pay to have our roll-offs collected. So we are looking to apply to the LEAP grant to purchase the roll-off truck ourselves and enter into other shared service agreements with Ship Bottom and some other municipalities that have also lost this service with Long Beach. So we're looking into that to get a grant to purchase that truck ourselves and stop this fee.
Right. That makes sense.
That brings us to page 8. Recycling had no change. Buildings and grounds, at the top of page 9, there was a request to replace the floor in the police department. So we added 10,000. There was also a request to, pick up some additional expenses for the library.
Yeah, we're expecting some additional buildings and grounds annual expenses at the library, some things that we would like to take under our wing, like an annual deep cleaning, some air quality testing, occasional duct cleanings, locksmithing, any items that we're able to take over for them as far as building and grounds maintenance. We would like to do that. So we're going to make a small increase to cover those expenses.
I estimated the amount at 10,000. I don't know, after the fact, you had said maybe 4 or 5. So
I think we should leave it at this, especially with some window replacement that we might have.
Maintenance of equipment, no change. The Board of Health, that is our annual contribution to the health department. That is their annual bill has gone up 5%. Hepatitis, animal control, aid to healthcare and have no change. The parks and playground, there was a request for new bathroom at Nelson, so we put 7,000 was the requested amount. I have paver project highlighted. That was the question I had. That was a project from last year that we added. Now I overheard a little bit of discussion today, so I'm not sure if that is completed or not, but
That's down on,
I will have
progress.
to, I can maybe ask Chris on that if that's
in
still
progress.
needed.
okay.
Moving on to page 10, for the most part, there is no change on that page. I highlighted the sand dredging under beach replenishment. I think that was a increase at one time, and I'm not sure if that is still necessary. If I can maybe possibly remove that or not.
Let's look closer at it.
Okay.
I don't want to say yes and then need it.
If I mean, it's in there, we don't have to use it. Right, but if we need it, it's there.
At the bottom of page 10, the library, there was a request to increase their annual contribution from 44,000 to 54,000. So I threw that on there. The other thing to note with the library is that the amount that we raise for the revenue for library tax is mandated by the state. The state tells us the figure that we have to put as a minimum. Last year, it was $863,250. This year, it's $1,047,873. So that went up 21.39%. We balanced the budget in that we put it on each side for the equivalent amount. So it is on the appropriations side, which is why you see here under the library, this $813,000 appropriation. That is just to make the appropriation whole. On the budget document itself, it's not broken out by salary and wage and other expenses. I put it on this sheet for our purposes, but it is listed just as one line item on the appropriation side and on the revenue side, and they are the same. They wash each other out.
Right.
On page 11, we have our fee to some of the local communities here. There's no change. Public relations, no change. Accumulated leave compensation for 20,000, no change. That is also, in case for the new members here, similar to the reserve for storm. That is a annual appropriation we are putting into a reserve. It goes right over into the trust, and we're using those funds to pay for retirements. And that's been in the works now, I guess, for 4 years. So we also have that 80,000 that goes back 4 years ago. We were hit with 3 or 4 retirements at one point, and it was costly for a one-time hit. So we're building up a reserve so that these retirements and their payouts do not affect and spike the budget. IT management, we had a $5,000 increase there. There are some new data services that have an annual fee that I think is I got that email from.
I'm not sure which items you're talking about, but we are looking to switch some of our services, specifically our email services over. We have cybersecurity requirements that we have to meet. With the new body camera equipment, we have additional backup data that we need to maintain. The size of our equipment, size of our backups have significantly increased. So we have to stay on top of all that.
The utility section in the middle of page 11 is driven mostly by our expenses from last year, where we either had to transfer money in or we know of an increase in electricity. We also have a new building for new electrical accounts, the Public Works building, telephone, natural gas, gasoline, and oil. We saw a large increase last year.
I'd like to mention something here. I think I walk around a lot at night and
Nancy,
no, it's not a
a
good.
little bit closer. Just move up a little
I'm
bit.
sorry. Oh, God, I forgot about that. I walk around a lot at night, and a lot of the streets that run east to west, the lights are it's very dark. And we did the LED conversion on Bay Avenue, and we've actually saved quite a bit of money by doing that. I mean, the conversion and the lights are better, and we've saved a lot of money in electric bills. I really, and I guess this is the wrong time to bring this up, but I do think that we need to start converting some of the street lights going from the north to going to the east to the west on the side streets. And I know there's nothing in the budget for that, but I think we might want to think
It's
about
on my list
Okay.
of projects down the
Thank
road.
you. Okay. I think it's really important, particularly in the winter here. It's so dark.
Okay, at the bottom of page 11, pensions. Again, that is our annual pension bill to the state. It is non-negotiable, but our pensions increased 7.7% for PERS and PFRS.
Can't do anything about that, right?
Moving on, page 12. No change for the top items. The bottom is just our grant section. Those numbers are just, again, grants that we know we have received money for last year, or we have been given an award this year. And just one thing to note with the grants, again, they are put on the budget on the revenue side for the exact amount as on the appropriation side. So regardless of the percentage increase or decrease, they kind of wash each other out. So moving on to page 13, capital improvements and debt service. This is, the numbers in here are unchanged for capital improvements, but there's still a discussion to be had. These are the items that we'll kind of get into a little bit more when we balance the budget. Our debt service, the bond principal and interest, the USDA loan, that was the $2.5 million loan we received from the USDA for this municipal building. That's our annual contribution. The ban notes of $1,240,000, that's our annual pay down that we've appropriated over the past couple of years and paid down our bond anticipation notes. We'll have a discussion about that shortly. The interest on our notes, we had an increase in the interest expense when we roll these over once a year. We bid them out in May and roll over our notes. In 2022, we had the lowest interest that I've ever seen. It was like 0.25%. And then in this year, we had 2.2%. So we had an increase in our interest on our notes. Overall, operating expenses had a 9.2% increase. But that takes us to the end of the current budget. The last two pages are the water utility budget, which has no change from the prior year. Just one thing to note, there's operating expenses. The capital improvement fund, we did accelerate that over the past few years and increase the amount that we put into our capital improvement fund. The capital improvement fund for both the water and current fund is the money that we can put aside to fund projects on our own. That worked well for us in the water utility for a few years. We were able to fund the majority of our projects fully funded without borrowing money and without doing bond anticipation bond ordinances. We would do a capital ordinance instead. Last year, with the water main infrastructure, that changed the situation a little bit, but we are putting $410,000 into that. And the debt service, we don't have any bond anticipation notes currently in the water utility. We do have the New Jersey Infrastructure Trust. It's the iBank now. That is the debt we have back from the water meters, the water tower, the water main, and the water plant back from 2009 and 2010. So that's our annual debt service for those projects. Any questions on the other expense worksheet. Again, some of those items we'll kind of discuss now what all of that means and where we are in total. And then that's where we have discussions on how we're going to balance the budget. We have surplus, we have real estate tax, we may have to cut expenses, the whole 9 yards. This is our worksheet. And now what does all of that mean? If you look at this legal size spreadsheet, the net value taxable, I will just run through this. This might be a little bit to digest, but I'm going to just run through how this works. Our tax rate is based on our net value taxable. 2022 versus 2023, we had an increase in valuation of 22 million, 1%, 1.03% increase in valuation. So the baseline up at the top highlighted in the pink has our net value taxable, our tax rate, the local municipal tax rate of 0.383 is what our tax levy was last year to balance the budget, 8.2 million. We used 3,065,000 in surplus in 2022. So to project what that means for 2023, usually we come up with a tax rate to figure out our tax levy, but I put a couple scenarios in here just so you see if we were to throw in a fixed dollar value into the budget, how that would work and what that would mean for the tax rate. So the first line is if we were to leave the tax levy the same as last year in dollar value, not percentage, but in dollar value, the 8.2 million, based on the increase in valuation, it would drive our tax rate down to 0.379 using the same amount in taxes. That would drive, so let me back up one thing I forgot to mention. When we plug into the budget all of these expenses for O&E and salary and wage, if I plug in the same number for surplus, which is the 3,065,000, that puts a hole in our budget that we need to raise down at the bottom of 9.1 million. So here's where all of these different scenarios come into play. If you were to leave the tax levy the same in dollar value, it would drive the tax rate down. We would need to balance our budget using 3.9 million in surplus. So we would be using 900,000 more in surplus than the prior year. The second column highlighted in green is if we left the surplus the same, unchanged, and we had to balance the budget using only taxes, that would fill the hole with the 9.1 million in taxes. That would drive our tax rate up to 0.421, which is a 3.8 tax increase. Then I put a couple different scenarios in there. There are some, the state puts a cap on the amount that we can raise taxes. The state has a cap calculation, that's the levy cap. They also have an appropriations cap, all things here that I will note and mention on where we stand currently with the budget. But the state allows us our allowable increase, max levy, again, this also without utilizing any bank. The other thing that the state allows us to do is every year when it says this is your maximum amount that you're allowed to raise in taxes, if you don't raise it to the max, the state will allow you to what they call bank that extra amount, and you have 2 years to use the bank if you need it. So what the next column is where if we took, just showing you an example, the max levy that we are able to take the tax rate to, not utilizing any bank from the prior year, that drives the tax rate to 0.411, which is a 2.8 tax increase, utilizing an extra 210,000 in surplus from the prior year. The last line item is if we were to max everything out just for reference and we used all of our banks, that would drive, the tax rate up to 0.447, which would be a 6.4 tax increase, just for a perspective of what is possible. The one document, I apologize, I wish I had, but I will get to you, is just showing the trends over the past 10 years of what the total debt is with our annual debt statement, what the total budget was, and what the surplus was that we utilized as a percentage to support the budget. Also comparing what the debt statement, what the total debt was. But I apologize, I thought I had this here, but I will get that out to you. At the bottom of that spreadsheet, I put it more in terms of a fixed tax rate. So if we were to say, no, we just want to rate, we want to either leave the tax rate the same. It would be more common to say we might want a, 0.5 cent increase, a penny increase, so forth. And then we would have to balance the budget with more surplus. So those are the scenarios that if we left the tax rate the same, that is what it is. The tax rate stays the same rate, tax levy would be 8.2 million, and then we would have to use 3.8 million in surplus, which is 800,000 more than the prior year. And then the next two scenarios would be if we raise taxes by 0.5 cent and 1 cent, and the additional amount that we would need in surplus to balance the budget. It's a lot to take in. The budgetary impact, just so you know, for expenses, what does 1 cent mean? I know that everybody asked that question quite a bit, but 1 cent equates to 216,000. So for reference, let me just discuss for a minute.
That's for everybody in town, right?
The appropriations cap and the levy cap. In the budget document, there are normal operating expenses, which the state, you put on the sheets that are inside the cap. There are exclusions to the cap, such as debt service, shared service agreements. Those are items outside of cap that they will allow you to raise taxes forever to pay your debt service. They also put a cap on what you can raise your in-cap expenses. And again, same thing as the levy cap. If you don't spend everything up to the max of what you can go up to, they allow you to bank it. The resolution or the ordinance that we introduced tonight, the COLA ordinance on the budget to go up to the 3.5%, that's a procedural ordinance. It's not saying we're allowing to go up by a certain amount. The state allows you to go up in 1 year 2.5%. We just to say we're going to go up an extra percent, and all that does is give us an extra cap, an extra bank. Okay, it doesn't say we're taking our expenses up. We still have to stay within the cap. This year we actually had, for the first time that I've seen in a while, our expenses in cap are exceeding our allowable cap. We are allowed, and when you get the budget document on the in cap, we're allowed to go up to 10,531,000. And the way we have it right now, keyed in, we're at 10,637,000. So we are over cap by 106,000. We have available in bank from the prior 2 years. We have, I think, we have 175,000 available over the prior 2 years, 80,000 in 1 year and 95,000 in another. So we're able to pull from these banks to balance our budget and stay within our cap. But what it's doing is our operating expenses, as they increase, we are drawing down on these banks, and we're just running at risk over the years that we're going to exhaust these banks and we're going to actually have a problem balancing the budget and we would have to forced to lower our operating expenses. The state just put out a local finance 6 days ago, so this is very new, but they are recognizing that there are an increase in operating expenses and they are allowing certain items to be pulled out of cap and out of cap to be put on the other sheets. They're not allowing the items entirely, but they're allowing, you have to take your figure from the prior year, add 3.5% to it, put that in cap. And if you are above and beyond that, you can put it outside of cap. We do have a little bit of a relief from that. The items that they are allowing as a out of cap exception, which is new this year, items like garbage and trash removal, recycling, the pension contributions, gasoline and diesel fuel, and workers' comp insurance. So I already had all these figures populated into the document that's just come out a few days ago. But what it does mean for us is it gives us a relief out of cap that we can pull out, for gasoline, 11,500, workers' comp, 15,000, and PERS, 52,000. So the state is recognizing that there are expenses, that everybody is facing. At the end of the day, what does all of that mean? It just means that our operating expenses are increasing. We are still within our cap, but because we're utilizing banks from the prior years, that if we continue to increase our operating expenses, we might have bigger problems down the road. Our levy cap, we are, we're okay with our levy cap. We're within our levy cap. And we have the ability to raise 8.8 million with the tax levy. So depending upon what we decide today, we most likely will be under that, and that'll give us a little bit of a bang for a future year. So now the discussion becomes, how do we balance our budget? We also, again, we balance it with real estate tax and our surplus. So we have a larger hole this year to fill, more so than I've seen because of some of these increased costs that we just discussed. We have to have the discussion on whether we raise taxes, whether we leave taxes the same, or, and utilize more in surplus. The other two sheets that I do have for you here is what does an increase in taxes look like? The average assessed home in Beach Haven is assessed at $845,666. So this sheet identifies on the left-hand side, if you were to find what your home was assessed at, and then you would see across what the local municipal portion of your taxes would be. This is only the municipal share, but it is the only amount that we can control. We are about 1/3. The 2022 municipal tax rate was 0.383. The total tax rate was 1.125, with the remainder of the county and the school district, regional and local. So in other words, I put on here what a, 1/2 cent increase would look like, what a penny increase would look like based on your assessed value. So for the average assessed value at 845,000, if the tax rate stayed the same, there would be no change in the municipal portion of the taxes. For a 1/2 cent increase, it would be an annual cost of $42.28. A penny increase would be $84.57. I threw in this scenario that I always throw in there that if we use the same surplus and balance solely on taxes, with that increase, it would be a $320 just for the local portion. So, I need some guidance on how to balance the budget.
You want us to decide this now?
No,
What are our
we don't have
deadlines?
to decide this now. This is a preliminary. Statutorily, we have to adopt by March 31st. So ideally, if we, I'm sorry, not adopt, introduce.
Okay.
If we could introduce at the March meeting, that would be great. There is not another public meeting prior to that. So I know we've done in the past, you can email Sherry individually, you can email me individually with your vote. If we have to call another meeting, if we have to discuss it again at the March council meeting, we can do that. And then we would hold a special meeting to introduce. And, you know, it's March 31st or the next meeting thereafter. So if, you know, we do have some time. This is early. This is preliminary. I know it's a lot to think about.
I like some time to think about this. Also, I know
But
that when I was, initially on council a couple years ago, I met with you to just kind of, this is a lot when you're
Mhm.
just coming on council. So
It is, and it's,
and it's
I'm,
still a lot. being
and it's getting
appointed.
harder every year with increased costs. This, I will say this honestly is a budget that I haven't seen this. Usually we don't need this much to balance a fluctuation in either surplus or taxes. One thing I will say when I discussed that we would talk about debt service, right now our debt service is 1.2 million as a pay down. We currently have 7,007,000 in notes. That was another sheet I wanted to bring, which I will provide to you.
You're talking about new debt, or is that the existing?
That is the existing. When I have plugged in to the spreadsheet, I think some of you have seen it, but it's more of a discussion that we have at Capital Time, where I list all of the ordinances. I go back 10 years and I show the history of what we adopt versus what we are authorized to borrow, what we've paid down, what our notes are. With the couple of ordinance that we've had last year specifically were larger with the EOC. We've gotten let me say this, over the past few years, we were very aggressive in paying down our notes. So the minimum required, and if, they're a 10-year maturity. So in order to pay off your notes over 10 years, you would think that you could pay down 1/10. We have stayed around the $7 million mark over the past few years. I've seen it fluctuate, 6 million, 7 million. We've been paying down 1.2 million, which is more than the 10% required amount. We've gotten aggressive, but our notes they have not reduced by that extra amount that we're paying down. And why is that? That means because we're adding new money to it every year. We're paying down, we start with 7 million, we pay down 1.4. We add new money to it. The new money that we're rolling over is the ordinances that we adopted over, the prior year. I keyed in some of the new money that I would anticipate. I keyed in the 1.2 million pay down with the 7 million. I've had conversations with Sherry because I know sometimes we adopt ordinances and we don't immediately go forth with the project. So I will hold off on borrowing that money. Especially with the EOC, do we need money to, trying to balance it. I've keyed in and I've estimated that our rollover this year in notes is probably going to exceed 10 million. It probably is about 8.5 million in the current, and we're going to have to borrow money in the water utility for these infrastructure. Now we're going to apply to the iBank. So one also piece of good news is that I did have a conversation with Julie Tarrant, the county CFO, and she apologized today, Nancy. They were going to reach out to you, but I don't know if they have.
They weren't.
But they offered to fund our water pump station entirely for the construction of it. They're going to fully fund that. So I think we had discussions that we were going to, they were going to fund half of it, 50% of it. They've offered to pick up the full construction cost. We are still paying for the engineering, so I think the amount was about 2.6 million of the 3. So that was good news. I did ask her if those funds qualified for the skate park, and she said no. It was more infrastructure. I asked her if possibly we could use it for the water main infrastructure, and we'll have a discussion about that later, but that was just, she said we can request it, but there's no guarantee.
That's great.
But that's just something to be noteworthy of. We are paying down 1.2 million. If our notes go up to 10 million, the required amount is going to be about $1 million every year. And now we're no longer really proactively paying them down. And we're going to run into a situation where we're going to have to obviously increase our debt service appropriation. We may have to look into serial bonds, which is long-term financing. I do have analysis on that, and it's not the preferred way to go. The interest rates are higher and they're for a longer period of time, but I do analyze that every year with our bond counsel.
Well, interest rates are going up pretty fast. Just went up, what, another half?
Thank you so much.
So
That was amazing.
I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry.
Thank you. It's a lot of work. A lot of work.
Thought maybe I would have cleared the room.
All right. We're ready to move on?
Yes.
All right, so we're moving on to opening the floor for public comment. And again, let me state that, we'll please try to suppress calling out from the audience, clapping, booing. Let's be civil. And we want to hear from you. So we'll start with the first person in the room here that wants to talk. You have anybody? Okay.
My name is Rich Conaway. I live at 330 Ocean Street, Beach Haven. I think it's very important, Michael's point, bringing up about a site plan for the project at Wallace Field is important. And if there are permits required, you'd have to have a site plan anyway. There's a question about the location for the skate park when it was considered on Taylor Avenue. Did they consider that on the property where the building is for the boat ramp in that area? Because you could easily fit the basketball court there and the skate park and be west on the west side of that whole Taylor Avenue complex. Something I don't think was thought of was when Taylor Avenue was looked at, was it looked at just the property that is paved?
No parking was looked at being taken away for the skate park,
I don't understand that.
because if you would have to take away some of the parking there. If
No,
you were
not
going,
if it was where the building is for the boat ramp in that area, which would be northwest of the Taylor Avenue paved properties. So you wouldn't be interfering with that at all.
I don't think that the width there is enough to sustain that with additional buffer and fencing. I can double check, but
I think there's more available there than what sections you want looking at on Walls Field. There's one other thing about Walls Field. When they were going to build the hockey rink that had built on Nelson Avenue, it was originally proposed to go in the center of Walls Field. That was rejected, and the reason being the then lawyer for the borough, Mr. Shackleton, said there was an agreement with the Walls family that if that ball field ever changed from being a ball field, that ownership would go back to the Walls family. So that should be considered.
We
Thank
are
you.
considering that, Chris.
Pardon?
We are considering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Oh,
We want to
fine.
be sure there isn't any deed restrictions.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Reggie.
Okay, we're going to do somebody from Zoom. Sherry, you're on that. And
Who we got? Sharon Ryan.
Hi, I'm on 333 Pearl Street. And I'm going to try to do a screen share with you because it says that I'm disabled. Can I do a screen share? I just had some
No.
articles.
Unfortunately not. I'm sorry.
Okay. I just was curious about, when the proposal first came in for doing a skate park, I have heard that there are a lot that have shut down. So I did a Google search to see what was the factor in or contributing factors for why they shut them down, and found some very startling articles. I've got probably 20, and I would encourage any of you to Google skate park closures, plus illegal activity, plus police, plus illegal drug use, alcohol, and such. I do agree with what Colleen had mentioned. I don't believe it's our kids that would be at fault here. And that was also mentioned in several of the articles, that these were kids that came in from out of town and they took over basically the parks. They talked about trying to police them. Different ones talked about kids hiding, different drug paraphernalia. And by the time the person came along to check, they were tucked away in pockets and whatnot. So it was hard to kind of enforce that. They said these out-of-towners didn't comply with all the regulations. They were jumping fences at different times when they were locked out, and not wearing the proper equipment as well. I'll give you I've got probably about 20 or so just headlines here that I can cite. One, it just said investigations by the Courier Mail and My Suburban Life have shown that skate parks are a haven of crime. That includes the selling and use of drugs, gang activity, vandalism, and theft of equipment. Also, inexperienced riders are sometimes put in harm's way. The skate parks can be dominated by older riders, creating unsatisfactory or dangerous conditions for the younger kids. Stroudsburg Area Skate Park closed for the last 60 days because borough police leaders have finally had enough. Stuff happens there all the time. We have assaults, drug use, underage drinking, threats, theft, said Paul Gasper, Stroudsburg Area Police Chief. Chico Skate Park reopens after closure due to illegal activity. According to CARD, an escalation of alcohol use and vandalism was blamed for the closure. And they apparently kept opening and closing. They'd close for 30 days and they'd open up again. Another one, Popular Open Road Skate Park closes for dangerous and illegal activity. There was fighting, smoking, alcohol use, vandalism forced the park to finally close until further notice. Here's another one in California, Fullerton Skate Park that opened in 2000. It's been closed since 2010 due to numerous issues over the course of the decade, including illegal drug use, sales, consumption, and alcohol consumption and graffiti. Niles Skate Park temporarily closed due to fights, illegal activity, police.
30
say.
seconds, Miss Ryan.
Okay. Lodi said that they've had seen kids smoking marijuana, passing joints in the park, closed. Another one, 3 people were laying in the middle of the bowl of the skate park in Santa Cruz. Officers said it was determined the 3 were overdosed on fentanyl and called the Santa Cruz Fire Department. Another one died of a suspected overdose at a skate park while witnesses stood by and captured the video on cell phones. Humboldt Area Skate Park was closed again by illegal use, this time heroin. There are probably another 15 here that are on here. I would just encourage you to read up, because I think we really we don't want to open the door for something that Beach Haven does not need to deal with. So
That's time. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
thank you.
Okay, somebody from the audience, please. Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of people probably want to talk. So
Sorry, I know you want to have the taxpayers talk and everything first, but I'm going to be brief. I know.
State your address, did you?
I apologize. Adam Elder, Fire Chief of Beach Haven, 100 West 14th Street, Long Beach Township. The only question I have real quick is because I missed real quick in briefly in the beginning of the budget. Did you guys talk about the fire company increasing the contributions at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was on fire call, so I didn't know if it came up. I just wanted to make sure that it came up and everything.
It did.
I know there's a lot of people that had public comment about skate parks. I want to get this in before everybody else rushes microphones. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, somebody on Zoom.
Mark Morton.
Hi, it's Mark Morton. Can you hear me? Thank you for having me. So
State your address for the record, please.
4 Lower Little Island. I am a seasonal Beach Haven resident, but I'm a full-time taxpayer. My wife and I have 2 girls who both skateboard. And as a family event, sometimes I'll even skateboard. I'm 53 and I'm still doing it. I just wanted to say I think the skate park is a great idea. I wanted to call in and voice support for it. I wanted to thank the past president, board members for seeing this through and giving it such attention to detail. So I think the design, from what I can tell, looks pretty great. It's a little hard to see from the Zoom, but it looks like it's a nice design. So I just wanted to share some support for some other good ideas that I heard tonight. So first of all, I think safety obviously should be first and foremost, especially for our first responders. I think helmets should be mandatory. I know that this is maybe a little farther down the line, but I think I just wanted to kind of voice support for that. So rather than having it be a choice, I think it's something that, if we do open up a skate park, that should be something to have on in order to gain entrance. Second of all, I think I heard tonight that there was something about a bike rack. I think that's a great idea too. Maybe if I think everyone in the park, it's a big park. I think even if it's, near the street side or on the north side, I think everyone would use it. I think that's a great idea. And I think culturally it fits really well with Beach Haven for all of us on families who are on bikes all the time. I think it's great. And then I also wanted to, I heard something about badges and permits. I think that's also a great idea. I think LBI in particular, Beach Haven does a good job with badges. I think, there's some real benefits there. I think there's, if the money raised from badges and permits can help bridge the gap on any maintenance and cleaning, because if you have a lot of skaters, they're gonna damage the park just out of just using it. So I think adding that element to it is significant. I think it also ensures that for the most part, I mean, even if permits or badges were seasonal, I think there's lots of benefits there. It ensures that there are kids, that also
30 seconds.
And I think that it keeps it sort of there's an element of a family element there as well. And it's so I just want to say thanks to the board for considering this skate park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, somebody from the room here? You're next.
I am not a Beach Haven taxpayer, so I will yield to the room if there is a Beach Haven taxpayer. that wants
Just talk and we'll,
Perfect.
you're up.
So
But you do need to state your name and address.
my name is John O'Hara. I'm an address in Manahawkin, 807 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I think that I can speak for a lot of us in knowing that we also very much appreciate that you guys have brought this to the table and that you support this. And it's okay that there are a lot of negative things that are being voiced by the skate park, because that allows us to address the things that we could fix about that. And, I know it's tough with the drug use and the skate park and everything else that's out there, but that could happen anywhere. And I think, as you guys have noted, the kids that will use our skate park are a really great community. And I think they'll have an easier time than most places policing that themselves. So I support, you guys taking this into consideration. I think it's great to stay positive about this, because we can come up with a million negative things, but we can solve those things. So happy that you guys have done this for us. And thank you so much for taking the time to hear us and support us.
Thank you, John. All right, somebody from Zoom.
Dave Bentley.
Hi, I'm here. My name is Dave Bentley. My address is 7502 Long Beach Boulevard, Grant Beach. I was a professional skateboarder and have been to skate parks all over America. I spent 65 summers in Beach Haven. I was fortunate enough to skate at the first skate park in Beach Haven that whole summer. I don't recall an ambulance ever coming to the skate park. I was there a lot. Anyway, let me tell you what skate parks are. They are not dangerous. It is said that basketball is twice as dangerous as skateboarding. For the most part, these kids are not delinquents. We're not a small minority. From what I've seen, this doesn't attract illicit behavior, just the opposite. Drinking and skateboarding doesn't mix. When you fall down skateboarding, it hurts. You can't just, and much less opiates. Anyway, they are not noisy. They're not messy. We don't have to worry about durability for the most part because they're built out of concrete. They last a long time. Why should we consider a skate park? Well, for the youth. I mean, the attorney or the Surgeon General says something like 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 children are overweight. We know that they're using video games and gaming and screen time and things that are not encouraging them getting out and moving. And when they get to a skate park, what happens is they try tricks and they fall down. They get up and they try it again, they fall down. And you know what happens? Nobody laughs at them. In fact, what they do is they help one another. And so we go from like team sports at school, and forced, participation doesn't always work. So people drop out from school sports. Most people don't make it all the way through to high school, college, senior year playing a sport. Many drop out. Skateboarders drop in. They help each other. It's a social opportunity for kids of all ages to get together. And you won't find, unlike at a ski resort, you will not find adult skaters skating over younger people. We're very conscientious of that. I think it would reduce street.
30 seconds.
And basically, the big question is, how important are our children? How much do they want to participate? If you look at Little Egg and all the kids that are out sailing, who then become on as part of our community as adults, they want to participate. If you look at Compassion Cafe and all the children that are supported by the parents, there's a lot going on for parents promoting what children are doing. And I just think they're the lifeblood and the future of LBI and deserve our support. That's all I
Thank
have
you,
to say.
Dave.
Thank you for letting me speak.
I remember you skateboarding and you turned out just great.
I try to put my picture up, but it won't let me.
That's okay. We heard you just fine. Thank you, Dave. Somebody from the audience.
So my name is Tyler Carlson. I live on 2 East 27th Street in Long Beach Township. And one of the council members brought up like what to do with the little kids and the big people, like adults crashing into each other, or anything like that. And my personal experience, I was a skateboard coach for 2 years. And then on top of that, I was a snowboard instructor out in Colorado for 8 years. So like I'm training this, and there is one thing in the skate park, it's called park etiquette. There's a term, people know it, it's understood. You guys might not have been there, but if you go to a park, you will witness it. You will see people observing, looking across the park, making sure their line is clear. Have you ever gone down to Wooden Jetty on a busy day in the summer when people are from New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, everywhere, and just seeing the amount of surfers in the water? Those age ranges go from who knows to who knows. And you look out there, there's etiquette going on as well. So the park will have the etiquette just as well. And not only that, but the little kids look up to the adults in there. They kind of find role models. They'll see that better skater. They'll observe what they're doing. And they'll, whether they ask or not, they will learn from that skater and apply it to their skating. Another issue, or not issue, but a concern that was brought up by someone was like vandalism and like skaters getting a bad rep and stuff like that. Once again, in my personal experience, not too long ago, I worked with Homefront New Jersey up in Trenton at Freedom Skate Park, where Homefront helped a bunch of kids that were just out of homeless, and they set them up with free decks, free lessons. They came in, they skated for an hour, and As far as I'm concerned, that kept them out of trouble. That gave them an outlet to do something productive, useful, not left in the streets to maybe find those drugs or whatever. Just because the person was found at the skate park, that might not have meant that they were in the skate park. They said California, they were found in the middle of the bowl. It's warm out there. The homeless people could potentially want it. And that's me not knowing anything on what she spoke on, but it's also, did they have a skateboard? Were they a skateboarder? And did that skateboard make them go in there and do that? So like, just because a skateboard was around, it happened at a skate park, you can't put two and two together and say that's why it happened. Like I said, skateboarding has helped me stay out of trouble. It's helped me in multiple occasions. So like, to say just because it's a skateboarder and they're a nuisance, that's what I've grown up 31 years as a skater dealing with. We always get written off. We always get like, oh, it's always the skaters. So like, you saw these kids come out, stand up, speak up. How much trouble do you really see in these skaters? They're in the town meetings. Like they're trying to speak up. Like I said, they're doing their part to help the community. This is the community. They're the ones that are here.
30 seconds.
They don't look like troublemakers to me. Like I said, they're doing things to try and better the community. So yeah, that's all I got, but.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much. Thank you.
guys.
All right, somebody on Zoom.
Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to be heard? You can raise an electronic hand.
Well, we'll go to the audience. Okay, yeah. I couldn't see that far, I just saw a hand.
My name is John Borsellino, 823 North Bay Ave, in Beach Haven. Just want to get a little bit of better understanding as to what you consider Walsh Field baseball field. Is it a baseball field or is it a softball field? Is it a Little League diamond?
It was a baseball field for many years. People like Babe Ruth played there. There is a possibility that there is a deed restriction on the field. We need to make sure that that's true. But it was literally the big guys, major players came down. My father used to tell me that. He went and saw them play.
So based on its current configuration, the yacht club has is it 3 tennis courts that are most west in the field?
The yacht club doesn't have any, the Walsh Field is totally owned by the town. The yacht club has a parking lot that they own that is west of the field. It runs along the periphery of the field, west of the field.
Okay, so if the field is to be considered a baseball field, and just based on my preliminary understanding of size of a baseball field, the fence line should be 300 feet from the home plate. And that would put that at or in those tennis courts. So then it's not really technically.
Well, those tennis courts belong to the town. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. So
I don't
I'm
know
just
that.
going on like what Mr. Batista was having concerns about the distance of the skate park in relation to the baseball field. So if we're considering it a baseball field, then the tennis courts are also infringing on the baseball field itself. So that's where I'm trying to get at. So, and also like with the bike rack too, there is a bike rack already on site for the tennis courts. So why do we need a secondary bike rack? I mean, you think that there's going to be that many people riding bikes, to the skate
Well,
park?
I think I think there will be a lot of people riding bikes, but I mean, that's beside the point. The bike racks aren't going to take up that much space.
Right. But it just seems like there was just kind of like spitballing of ideas to try to like prolong the process of getting the skate park approved. And it just, just seems like you're trying to make more objections to get this process slowed down instead of getting it speeded up like we want it to. Did you have any comment on any of that?
Are you directing that to me?
I am. I'm speaking to you directly. Yes, Mr. Batista.
Oh, I thought you were speaking to council.
No, if I was speaking.
Well, technically, we don't do back and forth with this, but if you want to make a quick
I'll answer the
statement.
question. You're asking me if I'm slowing the project down? No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
As
I
a
just
matter
wanted
of
to
fact-
clarify that if that was to be considered a baseball field, based on the fact that it needs to be 300 feet from the diamond to the center field line, that would put that at the fence or inside the tennis courts. So
Okay.
you really can't consider that a technical baseball field.
Okay, thank you. I got it. Is there anybody else on Zoom? If not, we'll just stick with the.
Not at the moment.
Okay, the next person here that wants to speak, yes.
Hi, my name is Sarah Everett. I live at 12 West 14th Street, North Beach Haven, so I'm Long Beach Township, not Beach Haven. Very grateful to be so close to Beach Haven, and also thank you all for your service to the community and how it helps all of us. I have 2 sons, they're 19 and 17 now, You probably heard from one in an email. But I just really want to thank you. And this has been something they've wanted for a really long time. And I also want to say that Beach Haven has been a leader ahead of the game to the other municipalities. When my kids were little, I bought Beach Haven badges because on 14th Street, I'm not in Beach Haven, but they could surf there. And Township didn't do that until 2009. Same thing with even just having the chalkboard on the back of a lifeguard stand. Township does that now. Beach Haven did it first to be useful and helpful to the visitors with kids, because where the tide is and where your kids are, it all is part of that safety issue. I also want to address the concern of what the skate parks are like. Before they could drive, we've driven to Barnegat Light. We go to Waretown, Barnegat, right by the police station. Awesome. Buxton, North Carolina, Nags Head, Ocean City. And then in the cities, the Lower East Side, and FDR, and they're safe. And these people here are their role models. I want to especially acknowledge Donnie and the Shack, because safe spaces for our kids, I'm a teacher. Safe spaces for our kids are a serious concern, and this is really important as far as their physical fitness and all that, but they do police that. And Donnie also provides that safe space in the Shack for these kids and teaches them life lessons about business ownership, about skateboarding, about involvement in your town. So this is all good stuff, and it doesn't need to be contentious. I think it's just, and all those safety concerns are important, but I thank you for that. And they are so excited about it. They're just really nervous that it's not going to happen. So,
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Next. Okay, is there anybody else? Yep, okay. We want to keep this moving. It's good. It's just a little after 6. Not bad.
For sure. No, it's been a healthy process. It was a long.
Don't forget to say your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Don Miller again. I own the Shack Board Shop in Surf Shack South on Scrivener's Wharf, 325 9th Street in Beach Haven. I want to thank the council again for getting to this point. I'm extremely encouraged by everybody's, we'll call it, theoretical support for this. Jamie, that was an awesome presentation. Everybody in the room was super excited. Obviously, the entire time you were giving it, it was super thorough. Obviously, those last couple of things that we need to button up, I'm sure we will. But mostly, I do want to thank everybody for showing up. I apologize. I think and it's possible a few people up front were maybe hoping for some kind of closure.
You need to talk to us.
I gotcha. I'm sorry.
I know it's hard.
We wanted closure. I'm just apologizing to anybody who maybe thought that we were going to get some kind of finality. I was hoping for that. I'm sure I'm not the only one. In the past, obviously, the council, I've been to almost every meeting since July. The council obviously bases all their decisions because obviously being a member of the council is all about allocating finite resources. So everything needs to be what is wanted and what is needed. I know it's theoretically impossible to need a skate park, but man, I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row where we've filled the room. If there is such a thing as needing a recreational facility, I feel like we've illustrated it these last 2 weeks. If we have to come back next month, we'll continue to express that need to you guys. This is something that this community obviously is thirsty for. We love that we've gotten to this point. We're going to keep showing up. But again, first and foremost, I do want to thank you guys for getting this far. We've tried this many times. This is the furthest we've gotten. We really need your guys' help to get over the finish line.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for showing up.
Thank you. These
See you
things
guys
do
next
take
month.
time, to thank you very much.
Understood. We're here for it.
Thanks. Okay, somebody else. All right. Oh, you go first.
Laura Toole, 114 4th Street in Beach Haven. As many of you know, I go way back with skateboarding, and that was a great presentation. I have a couple of questions. Can I ask questions?
Sure.
Okay. So it's going to be fenced in, correct?
It has to be.
Okay.
We'll
Will
let
it be
Jamie
locked
answer the question.
at night?
It has to be.
Okay, so then that nighttime, whole kids hanging out there, stuff going on is nil and void.
Correct.
Okay, so that should make a lot of people feel a little bit better about it, that all this stuff isn't going to be happening and kids aren't going to throw their bikes over there at night.
No,
or
that's
their
part of the
skateboards and stuff.
insurance requirements.
Okay, I have another one and now I forgot what it is. But anyway, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think the kids need a place to go and be safe and play, learn how to skateboard, have a good time, hang out together. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. You can always contact Jamie with the other question you can't remember.
Okay, what I think.
Okay, all right.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Carvajal. I live at 10 Bog Hollow Court over in West Creek. I was born and raised in Beach Haven. I know most of all of you. Kitty, I grew up skating with your son. You were always awesome. You know,
I
Miss
remember.
Laura, I mean, I got my
Know
first
about you,
skateboard
Michael.
from Freedom. I skated to Barry's, Do Me a Favor. That's how I commuted to work. I skated your sidewalks all the time, Batista. So thanks for not kicking me off of there. I still skate with your husband, Jamie. So I just wanted to come up and, you know, just say thanks. You know, this is time for some change. I grew up not being a great person to play baseball and stuff, but you know, skateboarding really touched me and it helped me a lot. And I am a business owner. We have Equity Prime Mortgage over in Manahawkin, and you know, I'm successful. Look at that. Like I'm a skateboarder, and who knew, right? And I brought my kids here, and I want to thank you guys for that because they're learning about democracy and learning about how, you know, it's not always exciting, but this is what we do to come together to find, you know, a happy medium. And that's why I wanted to come here and say that and say, I applaud you guys. And I really hope we can keep this moving and just, you know, thank you for what you guys are doing because we really need it. You know, I think the skate park was torn down in like 79 and I remember being kids and I know me and Luke would look across the street and remember like, we just missed it. Like, and the gentleman that was on he got ripped. And like, again, like, you know, Rennie Kosif made surfing be able to surf Holyoke. Remember, Rick? Like, this is the stuff that we need to be doing, man, because as parents, as people that are now in power, let's empower their kids. Let's empower people more. So again, I applaud you guys and let's push this thing forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next. All right.
Eric Anastasi, 1601 South Bay Avenue. My history in skateboarding goes back as long as I've been a surfer. In fact, I was putting skateboards together for Laura back in Freedom Surf Shop. I was a grommet when Free Ride, which led to all these famous East Coast surfers and skaters that came out of Beach Haven. Chuck Barfoot and his. Anyway, I'm going to make this really quick. I thank you. This is the most I've seen this entertained here. You are looking at it logically, professionally, accurately. When I pushed this subject, when I had a surf shop, 1996, 1997, 1998. We didn't have the petition, the support of Beach Haven School. We did have some petitions out there, but never got taken seriously. Thank you for entertaining this, and thank you for hearing me today. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, next. Anybody else? Okay. Well, wait a minute. We've got a young man. Yeah, go ahead. Dan, you're next.
Okay. I'm very excited for this.
State your name and address, please.
Archie Cohen, 6 Sunset High Bar Boulevard.
You can take the thing down or put it down to your mouth.
I'm excited about this. I've been skating since I was little. When that guy bought me a board, and I am very thankful for this and everybody being here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Dan.
First time on this side. Dan Allen, 423 Liberty Ave. I just wanted to mention that prior to the public comment, these first rows were filled with Beach Haven Elementary School kids. I know on Zoom, a lot of the people out there may not have been able to see that, but unfortunately, a lot of them had to leave for sports commitments or they just got plain tired of budget discussions. But I'm really excited about this. I think asking for a site plan is a proper idea. But while I was sitting there listening to the budget, I started Googling sizes of tennis courts to get a scale. And a tennis court is 36 feet wide. So if you take one of those and on Google Earth, turn that to the side, I think our design is 15 feet wide.
Yes.
So it's half of a tennis court. So it's really just going to be a very small sliver. But I do think it's appropriate to have ingress, egress, bike racks, things of that nature plotted out. I don't think it'll impact the baseball field as an activity very much. I mean, there's countless baseball fields professionally. Fenway Park comes to mind, where they have the Green Monster. that I think is less than 200 feet out, but it's high, so it makes up the distance. As far as the deed restriction, that may be able to overcome that. And I am just excited about seeing this move forward, and thank you all. So-
Thank you.
And hope last meeting wasn't
I
too
know you
rough.
worked really hard on this as well.
Oh, well, I will continue to if I have to, so,
Thanks.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, next, okay. That's all right. Just we want to keep moving.
John Cohen, 220 West 6th Street. I live in Ship Bottom, so I'm not a taxpayer here, but I wanted to come down and support the families from Beach Haven, right? Like, it's a small island, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a family here. Having a family here has gotten a little bit harder. We know that the class sizes are getting smaller. It's harder for the kids to get together. For you guys to recognize that there's a need for a skate park and hopefully vote for it is a huge step, right? Surfing and skating and fishing are what this community wants to do. And I think they've made that very clear, right? And, if you're giving something that reflects the culture that has been here in the surfing and skateboarding, that's an investment in the community. We're watching as the island is changing very, very quickly, and it is tough to own a family here. So if you guys can see that for the kids and invest, it's not just, it's for the kids, but, we're going to be skating it too, and we're going to appreciate being there. And, when there's adults, that's obviously going to police the park as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Corinne O'Connell, 331 Maryvale Avenue. And so I want to make sure that we've given enough. I don't want to take airtime from the skate park, but if we're at an okay space to pivot to our other
That's
favorite
okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
topic. I know you're in open discussion, so I
Right.
wanted to
You
shift
can
to
talk about
pickleball.
anything.
Great. So you probably received the letter that I had submitted to each council, but I have a hard copy of a letter from now
I think
70
we all got your
residents.
letter.
Great. I just want the record to show 70 residents in opposition to the expansion, full stop. And so in that space, what I've heard tonight, right, is for the kids. But the first concern we have is safety. Safety and the confluence right now of Nelson Avenue, if it's being considered, that weekend, well, all week long, but certainly in peak season, that playground is like kids and wagons and scooters. So the confluence of cars and kids and bikes and wagons and scooters and playground, that is not safety and that isn't kids first. So I think just again, trying to center on what we're hearing you say, kids, the safety and kids to thrive on this island and in this borough, that is something we are begging you to listen to on top of the other. The others, I have a couple other, I heard a master plan for the Parks and Rec. Is that accessible? Like where on the borough website? Is that something that I'd love? A lot of us have asked that question. What is that plan? So where is that and how do we access that?
It's
on the land use page.
Yeah, it's on the land use board page, and the master plan is a document that's edited every 10 years. So we're in, let's say
Well, yeah, we're soon going to be up for a new redoing the master plan. So
Great. So my follow-up would be like, what's the process of listening to constituents to help inform?
when the master plan is done, we do have public hearings and people come in. And so it's a pretty comprehensive document.
Yeah.
And it is on the website, and I guess we have some hard copies here if you want to.
Okay. Well, I will certainly follow it and I'll circulate that back out. Mindful of time. I'm curious, we last week heard pickleball center was the phrasing. I'm curious about the vision behind that. Is that tournaments every weekend?
What, tournaments every weekend?
Well, 12 pickleball courts and a pickleball center. I'm just asking the question.
Well, if there were, well.
It was up for discussion.
It's up for discussion. I mean, I very much doubt we're going to have 12 pickleball courts on Nelson. But, when they do have a tournament, it's usually once a year. The benefit would be to have the tournament off season when there's not so many people here. And it would bring people.
But
in.
I think that's an important, right?
Right.
As this is being talked about, because of the impact of that. Questioning about lights, is that in the plan? Is that in the visioning? Is part of the?
We've never wanted lights anywhere to, at night to distract.
Okay.
I mean, if you had lights, it would have to be in a commercial area.
30
And-
seconds.
Great. And a quick 30 seconds down the line, I'd love to hear each council person. Would you want the pickleball center on your street?
Starting with me?
Great.
No.
Kitty?
Sure.
Not really.
No.
Mr. Batista?
That's a tough question. To be honest with
It's a yes or no answer.
Actually have
you.
one.
I don't think, for me, it's not a yes or no answer. Sorry.
Everyone, please,
All right.
please be respectful.
Yeah, this has been really a very civil meeting and we want to keep it that way. Who wants to talk next? No, well.
This
you
is
can talk
open,
about
this is
anything
public
you want
comment.
to.
Anybody can talk about any topic for
We
3
just want
minutes.
you to be civil, that's all. You can talk about anything. And we don't need to get, we really don't do back and forth conversations in this.
Hi,
We want to hear you.
Dan Sertz, 2318 South Bay. I live directly behind the current pickleball courts and my family is very opposed to any further expansion, not only for our.
Can you speak up just a
Yeah,
little
it's
bit?
hard to hear you.
Is that better? Excuse
You
me.
can actually take that mic out if you want there.
Okay. So again, I live at 2318 South Bay. Being mindful of time, I want to say that we are very opposed to further expansion. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you. The motorcycle's a little distracting.
There are a few questions I wanted to get on record. One, has there been, and you don't have to answer these, but I would like to discuss them at some point or further down the road. Has there been a noise pollution study completed? Has a traffic safety study been completed? Has a green space study been completed? Has council consulted with legal, the township council on this? And has anyone done a recusal analysis for members that have an interest in pickleball expansion? If yes, we'd like to know where these are. If no, we'd like to know why not. My biggest thing is safety. My kids used to play in the skate rink, which is now pickleball courts. The traffic there is significant. We used to be able to take a kid in a stroller up the street without issue. Now you really have to be on guard. People are late for matches, it's packed, and people are flying in there. I think a significant safety study needs to be done before the township takes on this type of liability and before a little kid is hurt. I've heard from a number of pieces, I love the signs for the safety in the streets. That needs to be applied to Nelson as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Anybody else? Nobody wants to talk? All right, and nobody, is there anybody on Zoom that's showed up? And before I close the floor to public comment?
Is there anyone else on Zoom that wishes to be heard that possibly is unfamiliar with how to raise an electronic hand?
Oh, we have another person here, so if somebody's there, let me know, but go ahead.
My name's Steve Melchiori, 1915 Virginia Ave in Beach Haven. I just want to start off by saying I'm absolutely not against the skate park whatsoever. I have 3 young kids that all go to Beach Haven School. But I do want to talk about what a 9% operating budget expense means. And then I'm
You can
leery.
take the microphone off.
I don't really want to hold it
All right.
if that's possible, but I just feel like these bonds are being proposed and you listen to, well, we can just increase taxes. And I would encourage the council to be fiscally responsible, whether it's for a skate park or any other improvements. I'm clearly against the pickleball expansion. I think that's a horrible idea. And I'm also against any increase in impervious coverage. The same people who come up here and have to go for variances, not before council, but before zoning, are lectured about impervious coverage. I would hate to see any green space taken away. I think there's locations, if you guys are gonna put a skate park, that need to be talked about. I'm going to agree with Mr. Batista on needing a site plan. The 3D renderings are great, and I would encourage you guys to get real significant bids and budgets because people who design things don't necessarily know how to price them. So I would encourage you guys to do your homework, and I would encourage you guys to, well, you people, men and women, to stop just pushing these bonds out without the fiscal responsibility on the back end. We keep hearing that, things will work themselves out, and that sounds all great, but that's not really what happens. We're sitting here listening to a budget proposal and we have a 9% operating expense increase, and that's all.
Thank you very much. And I think to just clarify, I think all of us are take the fiduciary responsibilities very seriously. Okay, anybody else?
I have someone on Zoom.
You have somebody on Zoom? Great. Okay.
Simone Miller.
State your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Simone Miller, and I'm
Yes.
currently in Springfield, New Jersey, but our summer address is 324 Leeward. My parents are residents and voters and all that there, and they've lived there for almost 50 years. I've taught many children how to ride bicycles in that park on Nelson. It's a great space for little kids. They run around. My own daughters have played soccer there. Just last summer, we were playing kickball, a parent-child kickball game. And we weren't the first ones to do that. And we won't be the last, I hope. So please reconsider the idea of expanding the pickleball courts. We play pickleball there too. We have a great time, but we don't need any more. It's just an open space, and the kids need freedom to play without being organized by adults. They need to be able to go there and do what they want to do and make up their own games. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else on Zoom? Anybody else in the room?
Carol Torto.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, state your address for the record.
Yes, my address is 323 Pearl Street, and my name is Carol Torto. We've been living there for about 9 years, and I've seen a big change in that area. A lot more people, a lot more traffic between the tennis, the bike shop, the Pearl Street Market, people walking their dogs, their kids. It's busy. I sit on my deck and I see a very busy area, and it's changed in the last 9 years. I love it. It's a beautiful area. I love the open field. I take my dog there. We take walks. I have kids. I'm not against kids. I'm just afraid of the safety of the kids. I'm afraid of the area becoming a circus and just people and just kids getting dropped off. There's going to be a lot of kids that don't drive. So there's going to be cars and parents dropping their kids off. And, I just am concerned about the safety of the kids, the area, and I'm really sad about losing the green space, because it really is. It's nice at night. It's quiet. I mean, how late is it going to be open till? Are there going to be lights?
There is no lights. We're not putting any lights in. There will be rules. The gates will be locked shut at a certain hour.
And what
does happen.
time?
This is a discussion.
Okay, so that's going to be figured out at a later date.
It's already figured out. We're not having lights. That's figured out.
Okay, so dusk, everyone's going to be gone. There's going to be no kids loitering around. There's going to be no kids, I'm concerned. And I know all my neighbors on Pearl Street. I speak for mostly all of them. And they're not really happy about it just because of that, because of the.
Well, the other thing is you have the buffer of the tennis courts, and the kids will probably be entering the skateboard park to the south, not to the, I'm not sure, but they won't be directly on Pearl Street if it's there.
Right.
No, they.
Okay.
All right.
I just wish that we can maybe come up with another location, because like I said, I'm not against the kids having a place to go. I just want it to be safe and want it to be not so busy, because it is kind of a busy area on a regular basis until later on in the day. Maybe it quiets a little bit. So
I understand everybody, everywhere in town's busy in the summer. It is.
I know.
But thank you for your comments.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.
You too. All right. Anybody else want to speak? Yes or no?
Yeah.
No?
In the room.
Okay.
Lewis
Oh, we got more people on Zoom.
on Zoom. Louis Chattini. Boy, I hope I said that right.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, state your name and address for the record.
Lou Scatini, 322 Leeward Avenue, Beach Haven. I've been listening to the meeting so far, and I must say, some issues have popped up, which I thought I just want to mention. First thing that I heard about was the umbrella issue and the tent issue on the beaches. My concern is that doing away with tents or any kind of umbrellas with sandbags in them would be a foolish idea. I know we lack space. I'm on one of the smallest beaches on the island, but yet I've seen umbrellas flying around, hitting people. Fortunately, I haven't witnessed anybody getting seriously hit, but I Googled it, and it's like 13,000 incidents a year of umbrellas impaling people or hurting people. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, the gentleman that just spoke, I missed most of it because I had to get offline for a while. But I agree with him that the board itself saying, well, we'll just increase taxes. The taxes in this town have gone crazy. And to me, I think there's a lot of wasteful spending, without a doubt. I mean, you just put in underground sprinklers in the field on Nelson, and now you're talking about expanding the pickleball courts. And what are you going to do? Rip up the sprinkler system? Every year, every so often, they come down the streets and they put down new macadam, and there's cans in the road. They don't even bother to clean the street before they run them. I mean, that's foolishness. And my primary concern was the issue, which may not have been brought up, the issue of the expansion of the pickleball courts. I am adamantly opposed to it. The pickleball courts now, we can't even sleep with our windows open because they start at 8. So supposedly, many times they're there before 8, 7:30. You hear a couple of guys smacking the ball around, and in addition to which, the Beach Haven residents have a hard time getting in there. Last year, they ran a small tournament, and most of the participants were not even from Beach Haven. I think in discussion with the Beach Haven pickleball courts existing, you should be a resident of the town to utilize it so that we're paying the taxes for it and we can't get on it. You might need some kind of ID card. I don't know. And the other thing that I wanted to mention was the skateboard park. I am not against it. My question is, we had a skateboard park where, oh no, it was an ice rink. Forget it. That was an ice rink. I threw a skateboard. So those are my points. Dead set against. I mailed each one of you town councilmen a letter, which I don't need to discuss here, but I'm hoping you'll consider that. The safety of the kids is incredible. And the cars that are coming down now, it's increasing. You see that obviously, especially with the pickleballers coming flying in that place to get on the court on the time. And any angle parking that you're talking about is ridiculous. I mean, you can't even get out of harm's way. I'm surprised there's not more accidents in town with the angle.
30 seconds.
Okay, so that's my spiel. I'm against the park. And I think you guys should really put some deep thought into it. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom?
Jen Tomlinson.
I'm going to shout, man. I'm going to shout.
Anybody else?
Jen Tomlinson.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you.
Hi.
Yep.
306 South Bay Avenue, Beach Haven. I appreciate all the child excitement, and some of those kids were great. They were great last week saying save their green space. And I know I've expressed it before, but Walsh Field is green space. It was 3 creeks, and so it floods easily when we have big rainstorms. So, as for the concrete, yes, it's durable, but water's very bad. So I just think that we need to look at that. And the one thing that I love, the skater that was saying the things from like that they can fix, that they like to hear, that they can work on. The biggest concerning thing I heard tonight that the skaters from not our town can't fix is our budget. And I've been to multiple years of meetings, and it's been years that Sherry's been talking about, we need to think about reining it in. Since not many years after Sandy, saying we're no longer post Sandy, we need to think about reining it in. So I just urge you to look at these bonds that you continue to take. And I get the excitement, but sometimes we have to look at the grass and the money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I also want to thank Sherry Bowler because when I initially was on council, I think our bond was at almost 14 million, close 13 million, some change, 12 million, and we brought it down.
It wasn't.
What was
The
it?
bond anticipation notes were always 6 or something.
But we brought it down significantly in the past few years,
Um,
paying more into it.
we pay more into it, but we borrow more. I think maybe you're adding to it, long-term debt. So the notes
Probably.
itself, and I'll show you, I'll give you a sheet, but it actually has gone on a steady rise.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Has anybody else on Zoom? No? Anybody else in the audience? No? All right, I'm closing the floor to public comment. And we have our last thing, which is final words from council. Mike, do you want to start?
I appreciate everybody's comments. Dan, thank you for coming tonight.
Hold on a second, I'm sorry. Since we changed the settings on Zoom, people that don't know how to raise an electronic
Oh,
hand
okay.
don't have the ability to unmute themselves. So
Okay.
I see some waving hands here of Miss Janet Rispoli, so we're gonna have you unmute.
All right.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so I just.
We gotta
wanna
learn how to
bring-
raise electronic hands.
Am I okay?
Yeah, we can see you and hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to bring up 2 points.
Just
Janet
name and address,
Rispoli,
please.
Wait a second, you have to say your name and
No, she-
address
I'm
first.
trying. Janet Rispoli, 2216 West Ave. We are directly across the street from the playground. And we're here all the time. We're rebuilding our house. I just want to share off-season toddlers, kids, grandkids, parents, 3 generations, they're at the park. Even when it's freezing, they're at the playground. So that's how the fields, they're playing. We are there every day working. And there's no pickleball players there. It's a summer hotspot and it has been a disaster for our yard. It's been a disaster. That being said, we're totally against expansion. I don't even know how the first courts came on legally. The other issue I want to bring up is the umbrellas. I was knocked in the head with flying umbrellas, black and blue, last summer. Never once have I had a problem with cabanas with the sand things, not like the big, huge tents that people can't see the ocean. I respect that. I think that the cabanas with the sand thing are safer. And my husband has multiple times chased after flying umbrellas, multiple times up and down the beach. That's all I want to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Avolio? You have to unmute yourself.
Can you unmute it?
There you go.
Okay.
Good evening, Rob Avolio, and we live at 412 and 416 Nelson. Let me begin by thanking you for taking the time and listening to all the constructive concerns. We have 3 grandchildren. Pickleball, as you know, is expanding everywhere, and it's not different in Beach Haven. Our experience has been, and I know a lot of the people that play pickleball, a large number of folks don't live in Beach Haven. They come from other places on the island, and as importantly, if not more importantly, off the island. So it strikes me that the first concern that we ought to focus on as taxpayers is, are we serving our community or other communities? If we're serving our community, that's one thing, but my experience has been so far that the majority of folks who use those pickleball courts are not from Beach Haven. So the expansion similarly would benefit others and not the tax-paying residents. I can tell you the traffic is extraordinary. I've heard comments earlier this evening, and I've had the personal experience of folks coming late to a match and zipping up as quickly as they can as I stroll my grandkids from the garden area over to the playground. It is a bit dangerous, and it is a concern. So if we're going to balance safety with who will use and the benefit to the community from using pickleball, I think what you're going to find when you really ask around is that more people are coming from elsewhere, and there really is very little benefit to expand the pickleball courts. That's before the noise and everything else. The first thing for us is the safety of the kids who actually use that playground, and our grandchildren As an example, probably use it 3 times, 4 times each and every week in the summer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, now, are we done? Okay, nobody else wants to speak? I'm closing the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you.
The floor is really closed.
So anyhow, I want to say thank you for everyone for coming. We are definitely listening to everyone's comments. That's part of the process here. And it's been very constructive. Dan, I want to thank you for showing up tonight and voicing your opinion. Obviously, you've been a leader on the skateboard part. I think it's important that the public understands. I did not know exactly where it was going to go. And I know a lot of people have called and asked me exactly where is this going. So I think it's important that we show them where it's going and you get the input from the people that live here and make the
Jamie.
decision.
Like I talked enough tonight. I just want to thank everybody for coming. And I want to thank the council for listening to my presentation and giving me some constructive words to move forward. I definitely will contact the borough engineer and I will have that site plan completed within the week. I will call him every day until it's completed with an entrance, a 5-foot buffer for fence, and at least 4 bike racks. And I will have that all completed and I will share it with all council and have it hopefully a resolution by the next meeting. As far as the public, I appreciate your comments. I am a big advocate for green space and what I've explained. I think I did about the pollution that's not going to be coming off of the skate park. So I don't want to, reiterate that as well. But, there are places in town, like we've removed 4,000 square feet of asphalt from Walsh Field. There are places in town that we could consider maybe removing asphalt, like the school, which is 1.7 acres, a huge area, a huge flooding area. So maybe we could work with the school to remove some of that asphalt and maybe put in a cool turf field. That would be cool. So that's something that we could consider too, but we have to look at our fields and we have to move with the times and we have to put things for the kids. And that's my main concern, is keeping this community together to have a vibrant culture. And also I like what Mike Carvajal said about really empowering our kids and showing them, that they can make a difference if they put their mind to it. So everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Jamie. Colleen?
Oh, no, go.
Okay, doesn't matter.
Go ahead. I'm not going to host.
First, I would just like to send my love and my thoughts to Tina and Harvey Kelsall, who had a terrible fire, our neighbor and friends, and just hope they know that, and I hope I speak for everyone, that we're here for them. And just to remind it again of how lucky we are to have our first responders, the first responders that we have in a situation like that, everyone's worst nightmare. So thank you to them. And my heart goes out to Tina and Harvey and their dog. But on another note, I just like to, you hear a lot of this coming back and forth. Everybody's from out of town. Why do we care about anybody from out of town? I mean, the vast majority of skateboard supporters are from out of town. Welcome, come in. Last meeting, with the exception of the Beach Haven school kids who spoke, I think there was only one skater, young person that I knew that was actually like Moses from Beach Haven. That's great. I welcome that. We are a tourist driven community. We need our neighbors, especially our LBI neighbors, who welcome us into their town, just as we should welcome them into our town. So I'm kind of tired of hearing that. I know that we, as a councilwoman, I am to think about the voters in this town and the taxpayers in this town. So while I am cognizant of that, I am also really glad that we have, and I would like to say, I'm tired of the go away, we don't want you mentality, and I want to have a more welcoming mentality. That's all. That's it.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. I mean, last few meetings have been very interesting, a lot of discussion, and this is how a town government should function. So thank you all for coming out. Have a good rest of the evening.
I'll be short, but thank you. I think this was a great meeting. Everybody was very civil. We had a great conversation. We truly are listening to what you're saying. And, hopefully we can work everything out and the kids will have a great skateboard park. And I also want to agree with Kitty. I had a house fire myself and I know how horrible it is. And it's probably one of the worst things I ever went through. You lose so many things that are important to you, that are special. And my heart goes out to the Kelsos, and if there's anything we can do to help them, if they're listening, let us know. Thank you. And so with that, do we have a motion to reserve?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.